I'm not telling anybody, including myself, not to be super excited about the upside. We just got to remember where he's at and where he's at in his career. And it's funny. I've been asked a lot of questions since being here, you know, particularly around someone like Jordan about, well, you know, did he get up here too fast? Was it right for him to skip AAA? And hindsight is 20/20, but it's important to remember those things when we're talking about someone like Josh, who, again, the upside is sky high. What he did, we've talked about this, what he did in 2025, you just don't see that. And he deserves a ton of credit for being able to run with a plan and actually make meaningful adjustments. And we've gotten to see it in this camp. He can impact the game in every facet. When he squares one up, boy, he's got some pop. And we know we need that, and we need that both short and long term as part of this core. He's going to have every chance to be a part of that. We just got to make sure we're not selling short that journey and making sure we don't skip steps.
That audio courtesy of KMOX. That was Chaim Bloom over the weekend, Alex, setting everybody up for what was to come. The next day, not one, but 2 home runs by the young man, and now, see ya, he's gone. He was sent down to minor league camp alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. It's not altogether surprising that Joshua Baez is heading down to the minor league camp, but for some of us, looking at you, T-Bone.
That's why I'm shedding a tear.
We got all excited yesterday. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that. Audio courtesy of KMOX. Just want to make that very clear. Audio courtesy of KMOX on Sunday.
Not the Cardinals Radio Network, KMOX, even though it is the Cardinals Radio Network.
Alex, I think this is the right call. I also like the way they handled this, where, hey, get your experience at Major League Camp, have some success, see what it's like to go up against these Major League pitchers, and then we're going to send you down to AAA. You're going to get yourself ready to go at that level, and if you have a really great 6 weeks, we'll revisit this conversation. We get into early May. Maybe our corner outfielders are struggling. You're tearing the cover off of the baseball at AAA. All right, maybe you're ready to go. But for right now, there is no reason to rush this whatsoever. You have every reason to be excited about Joshua Baez. As recently as this time last year, that was not true. Joshua Baez looked the part of a bust. And then after one season of high-level success in the minor leagues, we're all right back on board, as we should be. He's given you that right by his performance. And you look at him, Alex, he's big, he hits the ball hard, he's super athletic, he stole 50 bags last year in the minor leagues, and hit for power. This is everything we were previously talking about with Jordan Walker. All of the reasons why we were excited about Walker, all of that exists for Joshua Baez as well. Both high school athletes, whenever they got to the Cardinals minor league system, the difference being it took a little longer for Baez to hit, whereas Walker came in and basically had success from the moment that he had an opportunity at the minor league level. I actually like this path a little better because he learned how to deal with failure. He learned what he needs to do to adapt to professional baseball. So I'm excited for what's to come for Joshua Baez. I'm also happy that they have a guy in charge now who's not going to rush this thing based upon needs at the major league level, and he's going to take the best process in place for the player to heart, and that's the plan that's going to be implemented.
I think what we really learned yesterday afternoon was Chaim Bloom is a massive fan of PK and Ferrario because smarter minds prevailed on the show, and we decided that it was best for Baez to be sent down. And what did he do? He said, Tanner's the voice of Cardinals fans, so we need to make sure that they understand that Baez isn't going to be here.
He took all the fun toys away. He said Quinn Matthews down. He said down Bryson Mott.
You see home runs? It doesn't matter. You're going down to AAA. Look, this is the smart and healthiest decision for the Cardinals moving forward. And I am very pleased that the Cardinals have somebody running things that has that same mindset to where it's like, look, this is fun. Cardinals fans need this injection of youth and life for our team because they haven't had it in a while. But let's not put the cart before the horse and act as if this team all of a sudden has found this next big gem and he's going to come up here and start dominating right away. Maybe he does, but leave something to be chased for Joshua Baez. Like, he has done well in AA. He has done well in single A. He hasn't even seen AAA yet.
Yep.
You saw what it is in terms of major league, little bit in terms of pitching at spring training. Now go down to AAA and keep this thing rolling, because guess what? And I have to imagine these are the conversations they're having with him. when you go down to Memphis, if you continue to tear the cover off of the ball in 3 months, we've got a couple of corner outfielders that their time, the sand and their little timer might run out. So by June, we may need another injection of life for our offense in terms of corner outfield spot. So keep it going. Chase major league time this season, and you might get that call. This is the internal competition you want if you're running the Cardinals right now. So I think it's smart and healthy to have Joshua Baez be sent down to Memphis.
What I'll be curious about is how long they are willing to give him or give the outfielders here at the major league level a leash. Like Jordan, like you mentioned there, like maybe we don't see him till June. I think that's possible. It's possible they wait till post-deadline, as BK had brought up yesterday. They wait till Nootbaar gets shipped out of town, and then they just fill him with Joshua Baez. But if he tears the cover off of the ball in the first 6 weeks of spring training, or excuse me, of AAA baseball, and you see Jordan Walker being Jordan Walker of old and struggling, I wonder how long they will really be willing to wait for Jordan Walker. How long a leash will they have in the outfield? Because I think this is the first year where I could say, yeah, they may be willing to pull the string a little bit quicker on pulling him up and putting more pressure on Jordan Walker, considering this is year 4 of the Jordan Walker experience. So that's the part that I will find fascinating about this. My whole point yesterday was I was cool if they decided to bring him up here because of what they saw in spring training. They believed it wasn't about the stats, it was about the process. I'm also fine with them sending him down and letting him marinate at the AAA level. I think that is completely fine, their decision. Left field, it doesn't matter what they do now. They can go JC, they can go Fermin, they can go Velasquez. I don't really care what they do.
I agree.
Because they're just buying time for a month till Nootbaar comes back. What I'm more interested in the Baez story is if he does play well, how long is the leash for a guy like Jordan Walker if he struggles?
And I think it should be pretty long. I do. I'm sure that's somewhere we probably disagree, T-Bone, and that's okay. But I think you give it a couple of months. Like I said, 6 weeks. I think that's the starting point. That's when you like. If Baez is every bit as good at AAA as he has been in spring training, which is like an OPS of 1,000, then after about 6 weeks, you start to have the conversation. And that's the starting point. So if you get a couple of weeks in and he's tearing the cover off the baseball, we should not be talking in April about Joshua Baez getting up to the big league level. Maybe we'll have conversations and I'll have to tamp down the excitement again and I'll play that role of peeing in everybody's Cheerios.
I can tell you who's going to be excited right away.
I know.
I'll be the fun parent. He'll be the bad parent.
Somebody on the text line, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Guys, it's a rebuild. You're forgetting that all the positives need to look at potential. Who else are you replacing Joshua with? Walker? Also, we need Chase Davis. I would argue that is exactly why you don't bring him up. If they were not in a rebuild, and they were trying to win as many games as quickly as humanly possible, I actually could listen to the argument to bring him up to big league camp. Because maybe then you're catching lightning in a bottle. And if you end up kind of stunting the growth a bit, maybe that first month of production while Lars Nootbaar is figuring things out with his injury, maybe that's worth it. But where you're at, we know what this is. It's a 1 month-ish timeline where you're waiting for Lars Nootbaar. Noot's going to get that starting spot back whenever he is fully healthy. That's going to happen. And I know people may not like that, but that's going to be the case. So if this is just a placeholder and you're not worrying about the wins and losses, in fact, in some ways, losses are better than wins early on in the season for the Cardinals, then yeah, go Nathan Church, go with Thomas and JC, go with Jose Fermin, go with Velasquez, go with whomever, because it just doesn't matter that much. And the most important thing for your near and long-term future is that Joshua Baez gets all of the development that he could possibly ask for. That's what's most important. You're prioritizing the player, not the big league club. And when you're trying to win right now, the opposite is true. And that's been the case for the Cardinals in previous years.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like where you're at, you could sit there and say, guys, they're a rebuild, so it's great to put a young guy in the position so that he can start to figure it out. No, it's not. That's how guys can get broken at the major league level. It's better to let them develop into what you want them to become. Correct. Let him go out there and be middle of the order bat for AAA to where he's playing in the corner outfield spot so that when he comes to the major league level, maybe you're still in the rebuild. My guess is you will be. then he's prepared for that moment rather than him jumping right into it, not knowing what to expect, gets knocked down a peg, gets sent down 2 weeks into his major league career, and then goes down and wonders, well, what did I do wrong, and doesn't get back to the level you need him.
The other thing about all of this is, man, the big story here is that the Cardinals have an outfielder that you can get excited about.
Yeah, when was the last time you've said that?
We've been
like
excited
every
about
year.
a lot of them.
Yeah, but
Maybe this guy will be different.
They kick us in the gonads when we start to get excited.
Alex, I've got this up right now. Since 2016, which is really where this merry-go-round started for the Cardinals outfield. Since 2016, how many players do you think had at least 100 plate appearances in the outfield for the Cardinals?
Oh, God.
This is a decade. It's 10 years, 100 or more
In
plate
the
appearances as an outfielder for the
Well, there's
Cardinals.
at least 3 there now. Piscotty, I'm going to go 15.
15. Ooh.
I can't tell if that's high or low.
I want to
It's a little
say
high.
decade. I want to say at least they have 4 a year. I'm going to say 35.
Okay, that's really high. 23. 23 is the number. I'll go ahead and read off the
Pretty
name.
fair.
Let me ask you this. Who do you think has the most plate appearances of any Cardinals outfielder over the last decade? Again, this is dating back
Is
to
it Bader?
2016. Bader is second on this list.
Damn.
I'm actually surprised by this answer.
Surprised by the answer. Oh, boy. Fowler?
Nope, he's fifth.
What
Peter Borges.
That would be something.
Peter Borges.
I
I don't see him on this list.
That's
I don't
good.
know that
That's
he
good. That was a
qualified for this
joke.
list.
So if Bader's
I have no-
2, I'm going to say
I have no idea if it's not Bader.
Ozuna.
Ozuna is sixth.
Okay. The other one I thought of was Grichuk.
Grichuk was 10th.
Wow. Okay. Is it Tommy Pham?
Tommy Pham was seventh.
Okay. Well, I'm narrowing this list down for
forgot about
everybody.
it.
Lars
Tommy Pham.
Nootbaar has
Oh,
the
jeez.
most plate appearances of any
Okay,
Cardinals outfielder over the last decade.
Wow, that's surprising.
That's crazy,
That's
man.
wild.
And it speaks to
Wonder why I wanna get
just
rid of him.
how uncertain the position has been. He's the only outfielder to play at least 500 games for the Cardinals in the last decade. The reason why you don't take shortcuts with Joshua Baez is for Joshua Baez to be the one that goes atop that leaderboard 5 years from now. That should be the goal, is that he becomes an everyday player for you and you never have to take him out of the lineup. The best way, at least in my opinion, to get to that place is by waiting and by giving him the proper amount of time to marinate down at the minor league level. We'll talk to Derrick Goold about this coming up in a little more than 15 minutes. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Alex, earlier today, we heard Robert Thomas on with TMA. I pulled some of my favorite cuts from the interview. I want to get your reaction. What did we learn from this interview? TMA with Robert Thomas. We'll play it for you next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So Robert Thomas was on with TMA earlier today. The full interview is worthy of your time. I did want to play some of the best cuts, though, from this, Alex, because, man, it was interesting to listen to. Mm-hmm. And I think it was pretty revealing in the tone that Thomas had.
It holds for you, doesn't it?
For sure.
You're like, man, he does a good job with his tone.
Well, no, that's not what I said. I said that it was interesting.
Okay.
And revealing. So I pulled some of what I thought were maybe the most revealing answers.
Good catch
from
when you
this
say
interview.
your favorite cuts.
Yeah. Some of these have multiple answers in them, so they're a little bit longer. I do want to say that now before we play some of them. I think it's worthy of having the full context, though, of the answers. So I'm not trying to lead you in a place that's unfair to Thomas, to the interview, anything like that. So let's start with the obvious, which is the deadline chatter. His name was out there. Did that catch him off guard? What was his response to that? Here's Robert Thomas on TMA earlier today.
I mean, usually where there's a lot of smoke, there's some truth behind it. But yeah, like I said yesterday, I was never asked to waive, and I never asked for a trade. So how much truth of it behind that, I'm not sure. Those discussions were private, and never really got to me. So I can't really answer that question. But yeah, no, it was a tough week on, my family, especially. Like, they heard a lot of the noise and, a lot of uncertainty, especially with the young kids. So, it was a tough week on them, but nice to have it behind us.
Does it get to the point where you ever call your agent or you go to Armstrong or anybody and say, hey, what's real, what's not?
We're going to keep those talks private, but, that's about it. Not really going to talk about that much.
Were you surprised that your name was even brought up? You've long been considered one of the core players in the future of the team.
No. Like I said, Doug had a meeting with some of us and gave us a heads up about, what could possibly happen. And did I think it was going to get as big as it was? No. But, had a little bit of a warning.
So he did tell players, hey, your names could come up, but it never got to a point where anything was presented to you.
Yeah.
I didn't cut anything off there.
No.
That was the end of the answer.
That was it? He had no further follow-up to yep?
I don't think there's a good way to handle this, Alex. It's hard because, imagine if 101 was in active talks to move you to either another time slot.
God, could you imagine radio stations making trades?
Dude,
that would suck.
Yeah, it'd be miserable.
Hey, honey, I just got traded to Cleveland.
Yeah. Crap. And you're working your entire career to get a protection clause where you get to say no. I will not go to Cleveland, but if you want to send me to Denver or Miami,
we'll talk
listen.
in the radio office.
Is being Blues pre- and post-game host like a no trade, or is that like a modified no trade?
I don't know.
It's probably a no move. Nobody else wants to do it.
That would suck, right? You go home every day and you're checking Twitter to see, hey, what's the latest update? Am I going to be here in St. Louis? Am I going to be in New York? Am I going to be in Boston? Where's my future?
It's not even you checking it. It's your wife calling you saying, hey, are we getting moved to Utah? Are we getting traded to Buffalo, or your kid? And I know he's got a younger one, so it's probably not in the mindset, but, like Braden Shen's kid, who's a little bit older now. And it's like, wait, are we moving? I go to school here. These are my friends. I play on this hockey team. That's the part that nobody really gets around trade deadline time, because the human element goes to the wayside, because it's hockey, it's sports, and it's transactions, what people love. And I'm not blaming fans for that, but yeah, I mean, that would be awful to have my wife calling me when I'm on a 11-day road trip saying, hey, are we moving to Utah? Like, some people are talking right now. That's the part that I can sympathize with him for how difficult that is.
No doubt. And so answering the questions is not easy. I'd give him credit in all seriousness that he answered them. Went on the sheet yesterday with Jeff Merrick, came on TMA earlier today. They reached out, said, hey, would you be willing to do this? He said yes. Credit for doing so. I don't know what to make of those answers, is my honest thought after hearing it, Alex. And as I continued along with the interview, I continued along that same path. Here's Robert Thomas on the captaincy.
It's a great question. I think there's, a lot of conversations that need to happen, after the season, and that'll kind of figure itself out. So, to me, there obviously was some conversations before the deadline about, what the future looks like. And, I'm sure that'll carry over to the summer, and I think that's where things will get figured out.
You've seen some captains lead like Ryan O'Reilly and now your former teammate. What stands out to you as the traits of a great captain?
Lots of things. Everyone leads a different way. Everyone has different aspects that are good in leaders, and the number one's just being authentic, being who you are, and really caring about your teammates. And that stuff is all behind the scenes and stuff that most people don't see. And at least in my opinion, my favorite leaders are the ones that are like that. And Jenner and O'Reilly were definitely big parts of that. And we're great leaders here in St. Louis, so that's a big thing that's not talked about as much.
I do think the captaincy is going to be an interesting dynamic this offseason, Alex, because it will simultaneously be, is Robert Thomas going to be here? And also, is Robert Thomas the choice to be the captain? It's just a weird dichotomy of, on one hand, he might be playing elsewhere by the time that the next season begins. On the other hand, he may be the team that leads you through whatever the next era of Blues hockey is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question for him to answer because I don't think he has no control over this, right? This is going to be Steen and Jim Montgomery's decision on who gets this captaincy. I think he answered it the best way you could in terms of looking at the captaincy, and he's right. You can't become something you're not just to be the captain. There's a lot more that goes into it. Part of me just really wonders that the captaincy is just in the back of his mind, but it's far back. Because the other things that are probably more at the forefront is, okay, my name was out there. The Blues are going in a different direction. JR has reported on that the Blues sat down with Thomas's side and explained to them where they're going. I think the rest of this season isn't so much of, hey, I'd like to be the captain, as, hey, am I going to be here / do I want to be here? Because if I don't want to be a part of the direction that you're heading and you are already putting me in trade conversations, maybe let's revisit this before we talk about that.
Well, that's the next answer. Does he want to be here? Here's Robert Thomas.
I've loved St. Louis. Like I was saying yesterday, when I signed, my contract, I wanted to win a second time here and be a leader on the team. And, that's been my mindset the whole time. Obviously, different conversations have happened lately, and we'll continue into the summer, and we'll see the plan and see what's going to happen and kind of go from there.
And is your hope this summer that it's not revisited, the trade talks? I mean, is that something that could be on the table and you'd have to give them an answer then?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, to be honest, how to answer that question. I've again been pretty clear about what I wanted and what I signed up for when I signed the contract, and I haven't asked. That's been my stance since I signed, and we'll see where those conversations lead.
I think that answer, middle portion of it, was the telling sign of his answer, if that makes sense. Read between the lines. He said, I was pretty clear when I signed up for this contract in the direction that we wanted to go. When he signed that contract, remember, that was at the beginning of that retool that Doug Armstrong talked about, right? The 3-year LA Kings window that they wanted to go through.
Even before then?
I don't think so, because didn't he talk about it right after O'Reilly and O'Reilly and all were traded away? And then
he signed that before they were moved.
Oh, I thought he signed it that offseason.
Because they were talking about how they were going to move on to this next core, and he was going to be a part of it.
Yeah, I thought they signed that contract that offseason, because the following offseason was when Buchnevich resigned.
He signed the contract in July of 2022. So that was 23 would have been the
upcoming season. So when he signed that contract, that was kind of it was in a competitive window, but I have to imagine Doug was looking ahead and realizing, look, we're shifting this core. We're hoping to transition this into a winning mindset.
July of 22?
I see that as July 13th, 2022. Robert Thomas isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Doug Armstrong made sure to lock up his player to an 8-year
signed it July 2022. So they traded away Tom O'Reilly and all that in the 2022-2023 season.
Yeah, so we signed it.
Yeah.
He signed before those guys had
That's
left.
what I'm saying. So
they were expecting to be really good that year.
Yeah. And I think the Rangers smacked them in the face.
But I also have to imagine the Blues were looking ahead, realizing that, hey, Ryan O'Reilly's not going to be here forever. Tarasenko's not going to be here forever. We're going to transition into a winning.
Sure, but the goal that upcoming season, like when he signed this contract, they were in a serious winning window.
Right. But the conversation was we are going to have to transition, and we're hoping to stay competitive. It didn't. They said they're going into a retool. And what I mean by reading between the lines in his answer, he signed that contract. They thought they were going to either, if they weren't going to be competitive right away, it was going to be we're going to get competitive again.
Okay, yeah.
And then now you're going into another retool. That's the part that when I heard him say that this morning when I was driving, it's like, okay, take into consideration the information we know, right? Where JR reported on Thomas and his side had talked to Doug Armstrong about the direction that they're headed. It's pretty obvious the direction they were trying to go into, moving Shen, moving Falk, trying to move Parayko. I don't know if he has an appetite to be a part of another retool.
Agreed.
Now, maybe they can sell him on the one path that we talked about to where, hey, look, we think we can use the commodity that we just got for Shen and Falk to go get another piece and make it competitive next year. But with all of the noise around Thomas, everything that has happened, the potential of more pieces being moved out, I really have to wonder if Thomas has an appetite to go through what the Blues' plans are.
The irony here is he's the one that represents it. If you decide to keep Robert Thomas, then you have made your decision on the path that you're taking. Thomas is the symbolism for everything they choose to do this offseason.
He's the North Star.
If he is moved, this is a rebuild. If he is not moved, then the plan should be that you're planning to a very quick retool, kind of similar to what it was previously.
What if he's not moved and they move Parayko and Kyrou?
I think you can still be really good really quick.
I think if you're looking at that, if I'm Robert Thomas looking at that, saying you traded away a guy who can eat 23 minutes a night, you traded away a guy who scored 35, 37 goals for us, where are you going? I think it's a big question mark if I'm Robert Thomas and you trade those pieces.
That guy that you're talking about, one of them is no longer our number one defenseman. The other one is no longer on our top line. We'll replace Kyrou's production. We'll be
with
fine.
A young player.
Maybe,
that
or
may
maybe
not
we
produce
trade for one.
But and that's the part you're going to have to sell him on. Which
I also don't have to sell him on anything. I can just tell him, you're under contract. We are building around you, Robert. And part of that is us doing stuff like this so we can get you the talent that is necessary to boost you up to that 100-point player. But we know we haven't done a good enough job of that previously. Our plan is now to do that. We tried it with Kyrou. I think it worked out well at times, but overall, it wasn't a successful proposition. So now we've got to pivot. We've got to get something new in here. We've got to get fresh blood with you. Clearly, what has happened over the last 4 years has been a failure for everybody involved. Now it's time for us to build a different way. Let's go ahead and do that together. Let's build together here with you, Robert. And if he says, I don't want to do that, you say, okay, well, I understand. Give us some time here. Allow us to take our time to build this for you. You can then decide if you want to be around long term or not. But in the immediate future, we're not trading you because we don't think we're going to get the full billing for what you're worth because you've been hurt for most of the last couple of seasons. You haven't produced it the same way that you did previously. We're going to try this for a little bit of time. So hold on with us. Let's see where this thing goes. But yeah, if you're the Blues, Robert Thomas doesn't hold the cards in this. You do.
Yes, but Robert Thomas, if he's not engaged into what our plans are, doesn't help me as an organization.
Then he's not a pro.
I don't know the answer to that.
Cold-hearted BK.
I don't know the answer.
Listen, I think him coming on to a station like this morning suggests like this guy's a pro. He gets it. He understands. He's got his big boy pants on. He knows what the deal is at the NHL level. There's going to be stuff that comes with it that's not always rainbows and lollipops. And this is part of it. The trade speculation sucks. I would not enjoy being a part of that. I would hate it. I would not deal with it well. And maybe he didn't either. But he came out on the other side. We're good now. And so going into this summer, if they decide that he's going to be here long term, I don't know if that's going to be the answer or not. But if they do, I don't think it's up to Robert Thomas on his future. It's up to the Blues. He gets to determine where he goes if he is going elsewhere, but he doesn't get to determine that he's going somewhere else.
Yeah, you're not wrong with anything that you're saying. It's just I have to imagine you got to be 100% on board with the direction that we're going, because if you're not 100% on board, then I think an organization starts to say, all right, well, we may need to make different decisions. And that's the part that I don't know. I mean, yeah, I give him a ton of credit. He didn't have to do this interview, nor did he have to do the interview with Jeff Merrick yesterday. But he did. He went out there and he answered the questions. That's a pro move. But he also is 26 years old and wants to win, maybe was promised that winning was going to be in the near future. And if the conversations are, hey, look, we're going to start transitioning to some of these younger guys, Theo Lindstein, Otto Stenberg, Jiricek, Carbonneau, we don't know if we can go out there and get that star to play with you. We're going to try our damnedest,
sure,
but we've also tried our damnedest in the last 4 years and we have failed. This might be a couple of years. And if Thomas says, man, I don't want to be a part of another this for a couple of years, then an organization has to say, all right, well, then we need to explore different options.
Or they say, I'm sorry, but that's the plan. You're part of that young core. You're 26 years old. We are building around you and these other young guys.
But if a building block in your team and your DNA isn't sure he wants to be there, you can't build.
You can, though. And
I
you
don't
say
think you
if
can.
you don't like it, you play better.
I don't think you
haven't
can.
played well enough over the last year or so for us to be able to get the maximum price. We'll talk about this more coming up later on today. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, joins us for his weekly hit next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The St. Louis Blues are back in action tonight as they welcome Braden Chen and the New York Islanders to town. We'll have pregame coverage tonight starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 6:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct.
It's been an interesting week at Cardinals camp. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. We are happy to talk it all over with the Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He is Derrick Goold, joining us via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Derrick, appreciate the time as always, man. Big news yesterday as the Cardinals, after a big game by Joshua Baez, announced that they will be optioning him down to minor league camp. I know you and the folks over at the Post-Dispatch have been covering this story for quite some time now. Were you surprised at all by the decision to send him down? And what did he do to open eyes while he was up?
Well, the answer to the last question there is so much. I mean, what a week. Like, very, very few times can I remember a week from a prospect like Josh Baez just had. If you start off with, like, the moment where he challenges back-to-back pitches, right? And they both called strikes on him. He challenges them. They get their balls. He earns a walk. And just like the way the crowd reacted to him, and Ali Marmol mentioned today, you got to see his personality kind of in that moment, but he also, everything he was working on, command of the strike zone, all this feel for things, were rewarded in that instance. And then he just played with such confidence and stormed through the next few games. I mean, the Cardinals probably ought to call him up to face the Orioles because he homered every time he played them. But 3 home runs, and then which brings us back to the first part of your question. Well, he had 3 home runs in 3 games. And then to your first part about surprise, no. Timing, interesting. They had a meeting, wrote about it in the Post-Dispatch after one of his really strong games. They had a meeting, and the coaches had a meeting with the front office to kind of discuss playing time and how it looked out and how are they going to go through outfielders, what outfielders to prioritize, all those things. And what they wanted to make sure was that there would be enough at-bats for him and for others. And if someone was going to get a squeeze on at-bats, who that would be. And they did not want that to be Baez. And so that leads to the timing of it. I think he just added a bit of a flair to it with that home run in the 3rd consecutive game. But it is the minor league camp starts going as games are getting there. He can play every day out there. He'll be a priority guy at Memphis. He's headed to Memphis, all of that. So not surprised that it happened. It's just the timing of it was when would that take place.
Derrick, I've heard a couple of just bits of him talking throughout camp, and he sounds more mature than what he is in terms of his age and his experience at the pro level. Did you get that vibe after talking with him a few times?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a specific instant. Yesterday, he knew he had been optioned. He was there with a bat bag to pack, and I mean, I've been around the block a few times. I know that usually means that a guy's moving his stuff out, right? I mean, he's not going to his car to get a bat bag to take it back to the hotel for PP, right? I mean, he's moving his stuff out. And I asked him about it. I said, hey, are you moving your bats? And he could have been frustrated, right? He's had a great spring. He has put everything into this. It meant a lot to him to be in Major League camp, and I think this is maybe part of the answer to your question. But in that moment, he did not let on that he had been optioned. B, he didn't give me a no comment. He kind of talked his way around it, and then C, bent it back to all that he's learned in spring training, and just had this. He's like, I'm not going to reveal what they've told me not to. I'm going to handle this, but I'm also not going to blow off the question. I'm going to handle it like a pro. I think, he's been around for a while, right? He was drafted very young out of Boston, had a lot of raw tools, but had a lot of experience to accumulate, right? But he's been at spring training for 5 years, never in Major League camp. So he's been around a lot. And I think that lends itself to it. You know, he wasn't fast forwarded to Major League camp. He was not invited at all for a while when other peers were. And I think that's really given him a poise around here because he knows what it's like to not be here. And it's also given him a purpose.
It's fascinating to see the handling of all of this, Derrick, because as you said, you've been around. You've seen the conveyor belt of outfielders that have made their way abruptly to the big league level for this team. Most of the time out of need, right? Necessity. You see Dylan Carlson in year one in the COVID season. He's batting cleanup for the Cardinals. Jordan Walker basically has the position made for him, has a couple of good weeks of spring training, and then boom, gets his way to the big league roster. What have you made of the difference in the way that they are approaching this with Joshua Baez compared to what we have seen in years past with some of those high-level, especially Cardinals outfield prospects?
It's a great question, and it's tricky because, because the anecdotes that you mentioned are the ones that stand out, and yet I've seen plenty of guys have strong springs as prospects and not make the team, right? I mean, I think we probably recognize it more on the pitching front. Certainly McGreevy stands out last year, right? And there's probably a parallel there between, Joshua Baez had a strong spring. Michael McGreevy had a strong spring. Their impact on this team is going to be down the road, and we saw that play out with McGreevy, right? Joshua Baez's impact is going to be with this team down the road. And so I think, you're totally right there. Dylan Carlson, he won the job. Jordan had the strong start, had some, concern there towards the finish, but by then the Cardinals were pot committed. What followed is probably what contributed to Jordan's frustration and the difficulties he had, not so much making the team out of spring, but trying to change who he was on the fly was very difficult. But I think I know at a 30,000-foot view, what we're seeing is the change that Chaim has set out to explain to fans that decisions are not going to be made on what it means to win tomorrow. The decisions are going to be made on what does it mean to get this guy better tomorrow to win a year from now. And there's less of an urgency to the decisions that they're making and less of a scramble. I talked with a veteran player today, and there aren't very many around, so I'm not sure I wouldn't say his name now that I think about it, but I was talking to Ryan Stanek today. I should have just said his name. All the listeners there are like, there's only one veteran, Derrick. We know who it is.
All right, we'll bleep it out, Derrick, so it's like you never said it.
Okay. No,
it's like
right.
previously saying I was talking to somebody that works with catchers within the Cardinal system, and it's like,
I was talking to a switch hitter. There's only one. No, I mean, it wasn't like a private conversation. Right? I was talking to Ryan, and he knows I was interviewing him. But he kind of brought up this idea, like, you're on a contending team and you have a really good player or a really good prospect who's playing really well at that moment, and you need them at that moment, and they come up, they have a strong first week, then the game is unforgiving. And that player has a down week, and because you're trying to contend and you're the New York Yankees or the New York Mets or you're whatever, or the Cardinals circa 2015, that player's out. That player's gone. There is probably no better example in the last 15 years of that than the guy who walked into camp today, Colton Wong, through no fault of his own. He was optioned back to Memphis because the entire team was struggling offensively. And the manager kept putting Mark Ellis into the veteran second baseman Mark Ellis into the lineup just because the entire team was struggling offensively. It wasn't even that Colton was struggling offensively, and Colton was a superb defensive player. But he could be optioned out, and Mosaic was like, I'm not going to watch a top prospect sit and gather rust on the bench if the manager's not going to play him, so I'm going to get him playing time. I'm going to move him back to Memphis. That that right there is an example of an urgent move, right? Like a team still focused, either the manager or the front office, on the results of the moment. I think what we're seeing now is a move with Baez, a move with some of these other guys. A move with Bryson Motts is another one, kind of under the radar, where the move isn't about the immediate need. The Cardinals need a left fielder. The Cardinals need a left-handed reliever, but they think these guys might be much more than that. So give them the chance to be.
Derrick Goold is our guest here on 101 ESPN for another couple of minutes. Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. As a follow-up on this, Derrick, you mentioned the need for a left fielder. So where does this leave them? I don't think anybody really expected Joshua Baez to be in contention for that spot, certainly not when spring training opened, but people got excited. So where are they at, in your opinion, with that competition right now?
They're still looking. I mean, it won't be decided. Marmol said today it won't be decided until he puts pen to paper on opening day, probably. But it definitely won't be decided until Thomas Saggesi's back from the World Baseball Classic. He's a big part of this, and his comfort in the outfield and the wish to have his bat and his upside in the lineup is real. And probably the team doesn't say it all that much, but look, their actions speak it. And he's kind of been cast as like this utility player, but it wasn't too long ago he was the MVP of the Texas League and can, crank out the doubles, and they'd like to have that from the right side. So he's a real factor in this. Fermin playing center yesterday, he was taking ground balls at first. He's going to be out in left field. He's part of this consideration. They would love for Nelson Velasquez to make the decision for them and just go on a not just performance in the game, but performance all around, because he's got power that isn't, to be blunt, it's not really readily present here in camp. There are times where you watch this team and you're like, how are they going to score runs?
Good. What we want to hear.
Yeah, no. I get how they're going to stop runs. I really see that, but how are they going to score on it? And they would like Velasquez to say, I can be a part of that. He's out there. And then Nathan Church, right? Good camp. He's been good, and he's probably more seen as that center fielder or maybe even that outfielder who is getting everyday reps, back to the kind of the notion of what's the future as opposed to what's the now. But he could elbow his way into this if no one else takes it. I just I would caution against anything this week saying like, oh, this is the guy, because Saggesi's not here, and if they have their pick, it might be that guy.
On the flip side of that, Derrick, I think we always tell people that, spring training, don't overreact when guys are struggling, but, Cardinals fans still may overreact. Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman have struggled so far through spring training. What's your concern level for those three?
Oh, what's my metric? I mean,
1
they're
to
way
10
different.
being get them off the roster and send them to AAA. 10.
My gosh, no. All right. Well, none of them are at 10. The Cardinals have gone out of their way to make sure that those guys are on the roster, so they're going to be part of this. Way different circumstances, all three guys. I'll try to keep it brief, but we could go on for hours about this, I'm sure. Jordan has got to make some strides with his swing changes, but also like a key element of that is still pitch recognition, right? Like whatever his swing looks like, if he's not engaging it with swing decisions, it doesn't matter. Like what he's done to drive and be natural, and the path and all the work that he's done in, if he is making strides with that and yet gets into a game and is swinging at pitches out of the zone, never going to see any results from these changes. And so it's about wedding those two things for him. And, he went on the back. He's been trying to get some bulk at bats for some of that, which is really the best approach to spring training. It doesn't really help fans to know what's going on. I guess it falls to us to try to explain that. But they're not keeping stats per se, and those aren't showing up in the box scores. So it is kind of out of sight when it comes to the results. But he is making progress back there. They were actually, he and the hitting coach, they were both encouraged today. It does have to translate to a game. Victor Scott, he's in a better spot than those numbers suggest. I don't know any other way to put that. And we'll see what he does now. He's about to lead off for them here shortly. But he's putting his approach together, and I think he's doing it in pieces. That doesn't exactly track with like immediate production. I mean, you're going to see more time on base from him. You'll see more bunts from him. You'll see more line drives to left field from him. Is he going to be able to erase all of the 4-3s? Probably not, because of how he's going to be pitched. But he's at least going to, drop some of those for bunts and outrun them. So I think his game is coming together. Gorman, a completely different thing, and I know I'm running along here, so I apologize for that. But the power is there, and that has folks, like, he's accessing the power, and that has folks encouraged on the Cardinals side with what they see from him.
It's been a fascinating spring so far, Derrick, and we are looking forward to continuing.
Aren't they all? They're so fat. I agree with you. It's been really interesting. It's been really
interesting in a different way, right? Because they're in such a foreign place for them as an organization that, like, a guy like Joshua Baez becomes a story, but it's a different kind of a story than it has been in previous years. And you have these young guys who, like, the pressure isn't the same to succeed for the team to win, but the pressure is there because they need to perform for their own respective careers. So it's different, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been a point that both players, manager, but also like being around the team, I can like back them on this. It has been very interesting to have a team where 98% of the camp is all at the same point. They haven't established themselves at all. And they're playing for this organization with a brand that has definitely established itself in the National League. And that contrast is so fascinating. And that bond that it seems to be creating with the players all of that same age it'll be a strength. I don't know if it'll be a strength for them in 2026, but man, they're going to be a group that grows together and kind of learns to win together, that you'll point back in 2028 or whenever we have baseball again. There's a downer note. But sorry about that. Whenever we have baseball again, you'll look back and go, oh, okay, that they got through this together. And I think they don't have to be at the same level to do that. They were in the same camp. And I think Baez, look, a quick aside here, like Baez yesterday was fascinating too, because he went over to Chase Davis to give him like a pep talk before the game. Chase Davis was not getting rewarded for some of the good things he was doing. He was struggling also at times too. So he had both of these things going against him. And Joshua Baez, who's known Chase Davis and JJ Wetherholt and played a long line, goes up and like gives him a pep talk and says, like, you're a hell of an athlete. Go be an athlete. And it's easy to point that out because then Chase Davis goes and hits a home run or 2 home runs. But like that Baez did that it's like, we're in this together. We're going to be an outfield together. Let's go do this together. That's a different vibe.
You'll be able to read all about it over in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That's where you can find Derrick Goold's great work. He is the Cardinals beat writer. You can also hear him on the best podcast in baseball. If you have not subscribed yet, it is time for you to do so, and you'll be able to hear him weekly right here on 101 ESPN. Derrick, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll continue to read your great work over in the Post-Dispatch, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Yeah, sounds great, man. Looking forward to it. Enjoy your week, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That's Derrick Goold. Appreciate his time as always here on 101 ESPN. Really good conversation with him, especially about all of the the interest in Joshua Baez and what he could potentially bring to the table for the Cardinals. Coming up next, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll get into questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. We will have questions for Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic, here in just a little bit. Some interesting line combinations at morning skate today. We'll talk that all over with JR coming up in about 10 minutes. Let's start out with this from the 314. Gut check. Which Cardinals prospects or young starters do you think are least likely to establish themselves as major leaguers?
I got one off the top of my head. And it's not going to be a popular answer because he hit 2 home runs yesterday. It's Chase Davis. He hasn't done a lot to show much yet in the minor leagues, and I know he had a good day yesterday, but as Derrick kind of alluded to, he had been struggling in spring training. I don't know if he'll figure it out. Now, maybe this is the year he has the Baez where it all clicks in. But so far, the early returns on Chase Davis as a first-round pick have been disappointing. He would be my first answer that I look at for this.
I'm a little skeptical on Jimmy Crooks.
I think that's fair.
Just not sure I see it as a starting catcher at the big league level. I think he can be a big league player. I think he can have a role similar to what Pedro Pages is, where if he's your starter, you're kind of looking for the next guy. But if he's your backup, you feel pretty good about it. That's kind of how I feel about Jimmy Crooks right now. And I would say Tink Hence, I'm not saying anything anybody else hasn't. I would say right now I would expect him to be a reliever at the big league level. Yeah. So those would be the ones that come to mind.
Tink Hence was mine. I'm done with the hype for that. If we get to see something great, if not, I think it's just probably going to be a rotation of you get to see him a little bit and he goes back down. Would you consider Blaze Jordan a prospect?
I was just about to bring him up.
I'm so out on that.
I know there are some that are very excited. He had the big power as a young individual prior to becoming a prospect to the major league level. I don't foresee him having a significant role either.
He feels like Luke and Baker 2.0, right? Just limited mainly to first base. I think
Baker,
he can play a little bit.
Luke
third.
Voit.
Oh, Voigt's another good one.
Yeah, those are the guys. I've only seen a couple of games in terms of spring training, and every chance I've seen something, it's like, meh.
Another one that I don't fully get the excitement on is Jerpy. And I know Jerpy's coming off of elbow surgery, but anytime I read on his reports, it's like, hey, kind of low level fastball, but like it's all about his deception. And I'm going, okay, well, you need a little bit more than just deception, right?
Jerpy
Chris
feels
Sale
like
didn't make it
Zach
because it's just
Thompson.
deception.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty excited about Jerpy. If he can get healthy, I think he can be a really good pitcher at the major league level. I just don't know if he's going to be able to be healthy. That's my skepticism on him. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, Alex, do you think the Blues will win by 2 or more goals tonight? I wonder what that question's
Somebody's
about.
laying a parlay down in this one. I only answer this if there's 7 more legs to it.
All right, who's scoring the goals? How many shots on goal for everybody?
I think this one's going to be a tight game, but if you think the Blues are going to win, I always go with the 2 or more goals because you get the empty netter. And if it's a 1-goal game, you're going to get that empty netter.
From the 314, what do you guys think the reception will be like tonight for Braden Shin?
Loud.
Yeah.
Standing ovation for a decent amount of time. I think it's going to be around the first period or the first intermission. Not first intermission, the first break of the first period. I would anticipate it being just as loud as it was for Pat Maroon, for Alex Pietrangelo. Another one of those Stanley Cup champions. He's going to get a loud ovation, and I think Blues fans are going to show you how much they love that guy.
When you look back on that run, O'Reilly, Petro, Perron, Maroon, Vladdy, Parayko, Binner, Shin, all those guys that meant so much to this city and had such significant ties to this city. This may be even a little unfair to ask, but I'm going to ask it. Where do you think Shin ranks among the most beloved members of that team?
It's a good question. It's tough to rank them.
Like when we see at any Cardinals game where they introduce all the guys,
I think your top...
The guy that gets the biggest ovation is like Willie McGee.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he was the best player of all of them. They're all unbelievable players. But Willie McGee seemed to have this connection with Cardinals fans of a certain era that is just a little different than a lot of the other guys.
I think he's probably 4 or 5. He's definitely top 5 because he plays the style that Blues fans adore. And he had a great quote to JR earlier today where he said, this town, if you go out there and you work hard and you play hard for the crowd, they will respect you and they will show you their appreciation every single shift. So like O'Reilly, Binnington, and Pietrangelo, to me, without question, are always number 1, 2, and 3 in whatever order you want to put them. I do think after you get to that, Braden Shen's name has to come up for how he always played the game.
You think he's above Vladdy?
Yeah.
And Perron?
Yeah.
Perron's another one.
Perron's probably right there with Shen, and I think people probably...
You think he's above Vladdy?
I think I would have Vladdy ahead of him. I would have Vladdy, Perron ahead of him. I think he's probably after those two for me, if I had to...
Vladdy's one that's always tough for me to get my finger on the pulse of because, like, for so long, I remember doing radio with Wheels, and Vladdy was the guy that was Kyrou before Kyrou.
Mm-hmm.
People wanted him out. He couldn't perform in the playoffs. He didn't play the right style. He was hard for everybody to be able to be on a line with all of these different things. And then they win the cup, and it's like, man, we love that guy. And people always did love him, and he had this unbelievable talent. And, you know, he's on the video game, like... He's a superstar, the level of which the Blues really hadn't had since the 90s, prior to Vladdy. But there was just such a double-sided coin with him. Perron was just so beloved. And he's like...
Perron played a different style than Vladdy, too. Perron played the Blues style with offense.
The second time around.
Well, even the first time around, Perron played, you know, Blues coaches didn't like David Perron that first time around. But yeah, the second time around is where he got that attitude that people really love. I mean,
and Maroon is the hometown guy, so there's a special connection there.
Barbashev and Sundqvist, I think people really adore for how they played.
Yeah.
You know, Bouwmeester, Parayko, Steen,
part of that
Steen's probably. I mean, that's why it's so hard to rank them because all of them did something different that people respected. I do think, though, like if you're saying Shen or Vladdy, at least in my opinion, I think a lot of people would say Shen over Vladdy. Blues fans love goals. There's no question. But Blues fans love guys that go out there and work their asses off every single shift. And that's what I think they respect.
The hockey culture is that.
Yeah, some. I mean, there are cities that just want offense, you know? They're like, who cares? Give me offense.
Edmonton?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder if that kind of goes back to the history of the organizations, too, right? Because, like, Edmonton, you look at when they've had their most success, it's with that kind of a player.
Yeah.
One of the greatest to ever do it. You look at the history here in St. Louis, there's a lot of tough guys. There's a lot of that blue collar.
Yeah. And when you win the cup, it was that way, too, right?
That's how you won the cup.
It would be different if you won the cup like the way the Oilers do it, right? Then I think maybe it would have been the way we viewed it in the past was blue collar, and then it changed if you did it that way.
Same thing true for the Cardinals, right? Like people view it as, hey, defense, speed, small ball. That's what has won here. It's what should win here in the future with pitching thrown in there as well. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, I've got a hypothetical button game for you. Would you sign up for this rookie campaign for JJ Wetherholt? Very curious to hear what you think about these numbers, and then I'll tell you who the player is that did it. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. Jeremy Rutherford joins us next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, a very busy man over the last few weeks. His name is Jeremy Rutherford. He joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. JR, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, good. I was just telling Tanner off the air there that it's good when the trade deadline passes because then when your phone beeps, you know that it's not a trade. So you know that your life isn't going to change for the next 8 hours after. So, yeah, everything's good. Trade deadline's passed. Lots to talk about, so let's get to it.
Jerry, are you sick of talking to me yet? People don't know. He joined me on pregame Friday and on Sunday. So I was blowing this man's phone up on the West Coast when he was, and Wednesday too. Like it was all JR over this past week.
And texting back and forth about everything as it's happening.
So are you sick of me yet, JR?
Hey, listen, BK, Tanner are not going to like this comment, but over the years, I am willing to help anybody who works their tail off, and Alex works his tail off. So anytime he calls or texts, I'm ready to go.
All right, $25 coming to your Venmo right now.
I will give Alex all the crap in the world, and he deserves it most of the time. That is one place where there is no disagreement here. Alex works as hard as anybody's I've ever met in this business. Just look at the day that he's about to have today.
Hey, it's a 6:30 puck drop, ladies and gentlemen.
Got in at what, 9 o'clock today?
Yeah. 8:30, 8:45, yeah.
And leaving the stadium at what, 11 o'clock tonight?
Yeah, 10:30, good old 6:30 puck drop.
Nice 14-hour day on a random Tuesday in the month of March.
Not a big deal. It's beautiful outside.
A light day.
All right, JR. Yeah, light day. Blues took the ice earlier today for morning skate. I want to start with the lineup, then we'll get to some of the on-ice storylines because, man, it's an interesting one. Looks like Sonny could potentially be an odd man out. Druin is potentially a third liner. Now Suter is potentially a fourth liner. You've got Lindstein potentially playing with Parayko. What was your biggest takeaway from the lines earlier today as you saw them out there for morning skate?
Yeah, a couple things. I think, that the youth movement is on here, and they've called up Otto Stenberg and Theo Lindstein. And, gosh, how cool is that if you're a Blues fan? 2023, those three guys, Dalibor Dvorsky, Otto Stenberg, and Theo Lindstein are in the first round, taken in the first round, and now tonight they'll play together for the first time as Lindstein makes his debut. So you're going to see all those guys, and you look at the line combinations and the defensive pairs. The takeaway there, BK, is that they're mixing in some veterans with some younger guys, and yeah, kind of weird to see a Suter on the fourth line, but I think when you put a Stenberg on the third line, where he showed when he was up here that he can play, I think it makes sense. And you got a Mayu with a Broberg, and you got a Parayko with a Lindstein. So to me, with where the Blues are at, it all adds up.
On the Lindstein front, I saw a couple of quotes that he had from earlier today, JR, where he said, playing for Steve Ott has paid off mightily. He said, he feels like he's been playing much better since Steve Ott took over. It sounds like that's the consistent sentiment from guys down in the minors, that once Steve Ott got down there, it really helped some things out.
Yeah, I really think so. I think it's been a tremendous move for the organization in general. Not only do you have players who are coming up saying that Steve Ott has really helped their game. Lindstein today saying that, since Steve came in, he's just skating a lot more, getting involved in the play. I talked to Jim Montgomery about Lindstein, and he said, he got off to the great start, then it kind of drops off a little bit after that, but lately he's picked it up. So the big thing is when Jim Montgomery can call down to Steve Ott and ask about players, or when they come up, he can say, how have they been playing? Montgomery told us today that he speaks the same language as Steve Ott, so they can really convey to each other, how a guy's looking, what he needs to work on, so on and so forth. So two-pronged, from the players saying that they're benefiting from Steve Ott, and Jim Montgomery getting a great scouting report from his former associate coach. It's been a good move for the Blues.
We're talking to Jeremy Rutherford here on 101 ESPN. JR, off the ice, there's going to, I would imagine, be a pretty significant ovation tonight for Braden Shen as he returns here to St. Louis just a few days after being traded to the New York Islanders. We were talking about this in the last segment. There's a ton of guys that come back after being a part of that Stanley Cup team back in 2019. Shen right up there with any of them in terms of how much he meant to this city. What do you think the scene is going to be like tonight as he returns?
Yeah, it's going to be great. I wonder if the Blues had that tribute video in the making, because if they didn't, I've been around them when they've made those videos. I wrote a story about the David Prawn, the making of that video, and they take a lot of time. So, if they just started on this thing Friday, which I know is not the case, that was a crunch there. So just 4 days ago, he gets traded and already making his debut here at the Enterprise Center with the Islanders. So I think it's going to be a loud ovation. I asked him about that on Friday after the trade was made, and he said, obviously you hope that it's, positive. But yeah, listening to you guys kind of rank those guys, I was ranking them in my head as well, driving back home after practice here. And, agreeing with you guys, I think you got to have the Petrangelos up there, the O'Reillys, and I think that Schenns and Perrons and those guys should fit right in there. Yeah, Tarasenko's a tough one because I think he did mean so much to the organization, and they don't get to the heights that they get to without his production. And then obviously there was the other side of it. So, but I think the names you guys mentioned, the five or six of them, they're all right there.
I love JR's like, yeah, the other stuff to go through. You mean the stuff that like
waving away,
the stuff that you were just crushing it on for the last couple of years with them?
I was trying to consolidate a couple years worth of stuff into 2 sentences.
JR is so ready to just be like, we just get through this season right now. JR, I guess the biggest stuff over the team that's on a 4-game win streak, and even trumping the Colton Parayko stuff on Wednesday, has been this Robert Thomas noise. And I know you've seen it. You talked to him earlier today. Generally, what's your thoughts in terms of hearing what Robert Thomas has been saying about the last 5 or 6 days around the Blues?
Yeah, I think if you put it in a nutshell, it's a situation where, obviously things aren't going well for the team. Doug Armstrong has the meeting with the group of players talking about their no-trade clauses, and, hey, we're in a tough situation. You might be asked to move it. So all of them were aware of the situation. Still, Robert Thomas, I got to believe, is pretty surprised / shocked that his name is where it is now in terms of the team potentially wanting to move on from him. In talking to him today, he said that he did not ask to be traded. He did not. He was not asked by the Blues to waive his no trade clause. So it didn't get that far in terms of across the finish line. But I think the Blues got really, really deep in the conversations, and I think it's all but a certainty that those talks are going to pick back up again in the off season, and eventually it could lead to his departure. The biggest takeaway too in talking to him, Alex, is that I still don't think that he has a quite good grasp of where the organization is in terms of stepping back. Like, how long is this going to be? I think, he believes that the team is closer to competing than maybe the front office does. So whereas they might want to look at it and say, look, by the time we're ready to compete, this guy is going to be 29, 30 years old. So let's get what we can for him now, which it appears they were trying to do with Buffalo. He looks at it like, hey, I'm only 26. I can be here for this. And I think that's where his mindset is.
JR, I don't blame him if that's his feeling on the situation, because I feel the same way. And I do wonder if the Blues kind of feel the same way they don't know exactly what their timeline is. What is your perspective on all of that?
Well, it's tough to answer because with younger players, how long does it take for them to, take that next steps? And so we're seeing right now what a Jimmy Snuggerud can do, and it's phenomenal. You're seeing a Holloway, you're seeing a Stenberg come back and probably pick up where he left off, and look on defense with Broberg, and Hofer's really coming into his own. So when you look at it that way, if you have a Thomas with that group, and let's say you keep together a Holloway, a Thomas, a Snuggerud, like this is a group I think that can compete and, maybe be in that wild card position in a year or two. But, if you're the Blues and you've already decided that's not what we're doing, we're going to move Robert Thomas, we're going to move Colton Parayko. And if the Buffalo package were true, you're talking about an 18-year-old defenseman and some first-round draft picks. We're coming back for Robert Thomas. That is not saying that, hey, we're going to compete for a wild card or third place in the Central next year. That's just not it. So I just think that you have to read what the Blues are doing when you think about what this team could be in a year or two, or if it's going to take 3 or 4 years.
From a Blues fan's perspective, Jaron, I know you're just kind of speculating here in terms of we don't know where the Blues' direction is, but if they view this as like, hey, we're not competing with the Colorado, Minnesota, Dallas teams in the next 2 to 3 years, and we think you're going to be out of your prime by the time we get there, man, if you're Robert Thomas, how do you sit there and say, oh, I want to be a part of this if the team doesn't believe they're going to go for it? Because if the team doesn't believe it, then it's hard to believe they're going to go out there and find the necessary pieces to make your team better next season.
Well, I think that's what it's going to get to this summer. So, if they get, re-engaged and the Blues find another deal and they eventually take it to Robert Thomas, he's going to have to see the direction that they're going and realize that they're not going to be competing for a few years. And, I did speak to, some people in the know here, and I think that, if that's the plan, if you're looking at 4 or 5 years, Robert Thomas, I think, would consider a move at that point because, he certainly doesn't want to be a team that's not in position to make the playoffs for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And if that's the case, and maybe the Blues could be listening to this interview and say that, no, it is going to take a while, and he should understand that, and he should accept a move because that's the direction that we're going. I don't know that Robert Thomas has heard that message in those words, or if he did hear it in those words, I don't know if that's how he's receiving it.
Jer, final one, and just a quick follow-up on that. We've been around Alexander Steen a large chunk of his playing career, and I know, it's different when you're a front office member, but do you feel like Steen's mindset is, I'm going to take over and we're going to rebuild this thing rather than take over and try and make it a competitive team?
Well, I feel like that decision's already been made, whether it's Alexander Steen or it's Doug Armstrong or it's the two of them or it's the whole front office. I think by their actions, they've shown that it's going to take a while. I can't see the Blues doing what they've done with the Colton Parayko and Robert Thomas and potentially Jordan Kyrou too. And then all of a sudden Alexander Steen taking over July 1st and, they're signing 2 big free agents. And, I think this is the direction that they've decided that they're going, and I would assume that Alexander Steen would be on board with it. So, Doug Armstrong did tell me the other day that if they got to free agency and they saw somebody they liked, and Alex saw somebody they like, it's not going to stop them from going out and signing somebody, but I think that would contradict what they've shown and contradict the big picture.
Going to be an interesting offseason, just as it was at the trade deadline. JR, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk with you again next week.
Yep, sounds good, guys. Thanks.
You got it. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on 101 ESPN. By the way, Steve Ott, the Springfield Thunderbirds head coach, will join us coming up at 1 o'clock today. Talked a little bit there with JR about what Theo Lindstein has been able to do with his game under Steve Ott's leadership with the Springfield Thunderbirds. Otter will join us coming up at 1 o'clock today. Appreciate Alex for booking that one for us.
Yeah, and another programming note, too, because I would imagine people are curious about the direction of this team. I believe Blues chairman Tom Stillman is going to join Curbs and Joey tonight on the broadcast in the second period, which you're only going to be able to hear right on 101 ESPN because it's a radio-only game. But I think we're going to have Tom Stillman either on BK and Ferrario later this week or on the Last Minute Blues podcast.
Fantastic.
And I think that's going to provide some people a little bit more perspective into the direction because that's the chairman of where this Blues team is headed.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you missed any of our conversation with JR or earlier today with Derrick Goold, you can check that out after the show today on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
By the way, if you have not done so yet, please download and subscribe to those podcasts. If you subscribe to the BK and Ferrario podcast feed, guess what? You'll immediately get access to the Last Minute Blues podcast and the Redbird Report as well. They will all immediately go straight onto your phone. You don't have to search for it or anything. So be sure, if you are not yet, subscribe to the BK and Ferrario podcast. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. But next, would you sign up for this rookie campaign for JJ Wetherholt? I've got a line that I want to ask you about, and then I'll tell you who the player is that did it. See if you still feel the same way. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN.
So this past weekend, my oldest daughter, Adelaide, is dealing with a little bit of a sore throat, and we were trying to give her some medicine, and we were like, hey, baby, it's like, can we get you some, like a popsicle or something? And she goes, Daddy, can we just go to Ted Drew's? That was her answer to fix her sore throat, and that's just because, well, we've really built that. Weekly during the spring and summertime, we're out at Ted Drew's. It's a Ferrario tradition on Fridays, and they are open, Ted Drew's, for its 97th season, open daily off of Chippewa, where tons of people are going to be out there getting that St. Louis tradition, Ted Drew's famous frozen custard, a fourth-generation family-run business built on quality service, a love for St. Louis, and, of course, that delicious taste with the frozen custard. You can mix and match whatever flavors you want. You could buy it in bulk. Pro tip, take it home, store it in your freezer, and get Ted Drew's whenever you prefer it. And you can go out there, mix and match every flavor that you want. A Blues game day, which means go get the Blue Note, vanilla custard, fresh blend of blueberries, smooth lemon cream, graham crackers, served as a concrete or a sundae. Plus, Ted Drew's is hiring for the season, so if you're looking for a job or if your kiddo's looking for a job, you can check it out online at teddrews.com. They've got a gift shop, a historical museum right across the parking lot off of Chippewa, where you can see tons of Ted Drew's memorabilia and shop Ted Drew's apparel and gift cards. So Ted Drew's open for the 97th season. Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues will be back in action tonight as they welcome Braden Shen back to St. Louis, as the Blues will be taking on the New York Islanders. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario and puck drop at 6:30 with Chris Carver and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, so everybody's got different expectations for JJ Wetherholt. I think all of us are excited about what he can be, not only in the future, but for this year. He's been awesome in spring training. He was highly productive last year. I'd be very surprised at this point if he's not the starting second baseman on opening day and probably batting somewhere in your top 5 on opening day. Hell, Derrick Goold, who's not exactly known for overhyping things, said he might be already the best Cardinals hitter at camp. That speaks to where JJ Wetherholt's at already. So I wanted to throw this your way. 314-399-9646. That's the Your Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. If I told you that this is the stat line that JJ Wetherholt has in year 1 as a St. Louis Cardinal, how would you feel at the end of the season? And then I'll tell you the name that had that first year. This is somebody that came up at the age of 22. And in that rookie season, hit .265. He got on base 34% of the time. He slugged .435. He finished with 18 home runs and 65 RBI in 150 games. So he was a full-time player in his first year up at the big league level. 30 doubles, 18 homers, 65 RBI, about 10% above league average offensively. Struck out 25% of the time. Would you guys consider that a successful first year for JJ Wetherholt? It's only 10% above league average, but solid average, gets on base at a good clip, a little above average in terms of the slug, 18 homers at the end of the season. If I set a button next to you and you could hit it to lock it in, or you're pressing your luck for something a little bit more, how would you feel about that rookie campaign for JJ Wetherholt, Alex?
I think I'd hit the button, because for a rookie campaign, man, it's just an unknown. It's just a blur. I think I would like to see the strikeout number be a little less and the on base and batting average be a little bit better. But pickers can't be choosers, and 30 doubles and 16 home runs, I think you said? 18 home runs. That's pretty significant for a guy who's 22 years old. So, yeah, I think I would hit the button. As much as I want to press my luck, I think I would hit the button.
Yeah, I think I would hit the button as well, because I would sign up for that today. I've always been one that's kind of cautioned that he's probably going to be closer to league average, than he's going to be some guy that's 25% or more above. So if you're telling me 10% above league average, I'm totally cool with that. And it feels kind of like the profile that I'm expecting for him, where it's going to be more of doubles that's driving the power. He's got some home run pop to him, but he gets on base at a pretty good clip. And 260 is a pretty solid average, especially for in today's game. I would sign up for that. I think that would be a huge success for the Cardinals.
Do you know who that was?
Bobby Witt Jr.
Was it?
No, I'm asking. Do you know who it was?
That was my guess.
I was thinking like Jonathan India, but I think he didn't have that kind of power.
It was Dylan Carlson.
Oh, I should have known. It was a freaking Cardinal.
Damn.
It was Dylan Carlson's rookie year.
We're in trouble.
So earlier today, I went through to find out, all right, JJ Wetherholt this year is going to be 23 years old. So in the last decade, as we've seen the modernization of baseball, right? We've seen more and more strikeouts add up over the last 10 years. We've seen pitching staffs, they attack you differently than they did previously. Strikeouts are up, average is down. So I only wanted to use the last 10 years as our guide here. Guys his age or younger, 23 or younger, in their rookie campaign that had at least 250 plate appearances, what did they do at the big league level? How successful were they, or unsuccessful were they? And you go through, there's about 120 of them that have done this over the last decade. There were a few that were wildly successful that are just unrealistic in terms of the rookie year expectations. Like Shohei Ohtani as a rookie was 50% above league average. Juan Soto, 50% above league average. He hit 295 and got on base 40% of the time. Wow. I don't think that's fair to expect that out of JJ Wetherholt. Now, if he did it, I'd sign up for it. I would definitely hit the button today. So I was trying to find something a little more realistic. And as I was looking through these, you see some guys that just the power is too much to expect out of somebody like a JJ Wetherholt. And then I saw Dylan Carlson's rookie year numbers, and I was like, man, that does look like the kind of season that I feel like we can reasonably expect out of Wetherholt this year. And I remember being excited about Dylan Carlson after his rookie year. I also remember leaving that thing saying, I don't know that there's a star there. I think it's a really good player, well-rounded, does a little bit of everything. Solid defensively, gets on base, hits for a little bit of average, but probably never a 30 home run hitter. Just a really solid all-around baseball player. And I think that kind of is the feel that I currently have for JJ Wetherholt. So I would sign up for it. I'd hit the button today. Yeah. I think that's a really good rookie campaign.
Yeah, I mean, you have to sign up for that because you just don't know with a rookie what it looks like when you get to the major leagues. Everything he has done in the minors looks great, but major league is a different entity, and teams adjust, players adjust, and you've got to figure out how to adjust to it. Plus, I mean, that's just the starting block, right? Like if you're building off of 30 doubles and 18 home runs as a 23-year-old in Major League Baseball, the hope is you could push that to 25 home runs and 40 doubles, right? Like you showcase that, you get better in terms of the pitch recognition at Major League Baseball. I mean, that's the makings of a guy that you build around.
You'd think so, but I don't know because I look at some of the.
I remember same with Carl. Like your point on Carlson, I don't know. Like I remember seeing him year one. Thinking the same thing as you. You know, I think it just depends on how you see him.
That's
get
why
to
I
those
said
results.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And I just look at some of the players around Dylan Carlson. Again, going back to the search that I did earlier today, Jordan Walker was very similar in year one. Year two wasn't as good. Eloy Jimenez, very similar in year one. Basically hasn't been the same player ever since. Alex Verdugo, same thing. Wyatt Langford, Christopher Morel, Akil Baddoo, Jairo Munoz was on this list, very similar to them. Like there are a lot of players that are in this kind of 10 to 15% above league average offensively as a rookie that I think for most of these teams, their fan bases left that first year saying, man, if this is what they are as a rookie, imagine what they're going to be. And a lot of the time, the league adjusts to you, And for many of these players, they never reach those heights again. So I'm in total agreement with you, Alex. I'm not disagreeing with your statement of you hope he becomes even more than that. But that's the tricky part is there's no guarantee of it. It very well could be like that's what they are. I think we're seeing this more often now is players come up and that's kind of what they are, or they almost go down from there because the league gets the book out on you. You now have to adjust to what the league is doing against you. And then you have to get back to those heights that you had as a rookie. I'll be curious to see what that means for his long-term future. But, yeah, if he has this first year 10, 15% above league average, I think everybody would, I would assume, be pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
That'd be a considerable win for the Cardinals in my view.
Well, and to your point, like, who was the last guy that we saw that got to the major leagues? There's just not many more where they kind of start off somewhat slow, and then they just take off and end up continue to grow kind of on a linear trajectory. Like Bobby Witt was kind of this guy. Year one, he was just above league average offensively, had some defensive issues, and then boom, but he took off. There's just not a lot of guys that had...
James Wood
would be one, but he's like one of the very few examples you can think of. A lot of it is, like you said, guys get up here and it's basically who they are, or they go down. And you know, that's been my point on Walker is, how many people can you point across baseball that end up having a very good year one, baseball adjusts, and he continues on a downward trajectory, then suddenly, snap of your fingers, he gets back to it. It just doesn't happen.
Guys that fit into the criteria you're talking about, like, I'd say Willie Adames probably fits into that. Vlad Guerrero Jr. definitely fits into that. And these are outliers. I'm agreeing with your statement.
Vlad was kind of another one that he took off like right away year two, right? Did he struggle?
I think it was year two, but it was the shortened COVID season. But yeah, that second year in the COVID. No, it was year three. Okay. Year three at the big league level, because COVID was a good year for him, but it was still 10% above league average. Then year three, hit 310 with 48 home runs, and now he's a superstar and basically became that afterwards. Other than him, though, you continue along. Some of the other names that stand out on here, Bobby Witt Jr. Definitely would be one. Man, it's not a whole lot. Pete Crow Armstrong, if you believe in what we saw last year, the first half.
Really believe in it.
I don't believe in it.
Jazz Chisholm maybe would be somebody that fits into the criteria a little bit, but yeah, if you're below league average as a rookie under the age of 23, Byron Buxton, he would definitely be that if he was ever able to stay healthy. Austin Riley. Pretty rarely, though, do you see them eventually become like legit star level players at the big league level.
Yeah, and Riley's had like one real breakout year, 2 breakout years, and then he's kind of settled back in where he's above league average. He's a fine player, but he's not the superstar that like Braves may have been thinking.
That's 1 year so far.
Perdomo's a really good one, and he's a weird example because like he definitely was not ready the first time that he was up. They needed him out of necessity, I believe, when he got called up because I think they had a shortstop injury. It was almost like the Victor Scott thing where he got called up, had to be up there for a long time, and then the second year it was okay. Yeah, he makes that adjustment. But yeah, a lot of guys, you know what they are within 1,000 plate appearances essentially.
Yeah, we've talked about this with Gorman. We've talked about this with Jordan Walker. If either of them become really significant contributors at the major league level, like not only are they solid players, but they're, driving forces behind the Cardinals winning again, they would be huge outliers based upon how long it took them to get to that point. It's happened before. It's just incredibly rare. I brought it up on the Redbird Report a couple of weeks ago, T-Bone, where like you're hoping Nolan Gorman is your Chris Davis. That would be one of the very few outliers that had a similar start to his career, eventually broke out. It took a little longer than you would have hoped, but eventually broke out and then just became a really good player in a short period of time, but a really good player nonetheless before ultimately injuries took hold and he kind of went down on the other side with the decline. But that would be him. And on the Jordan Walker side, man, it's finding a player that has been as bad as him that became good.
It wasn't that bad.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. It might just be like Perdomo. That might be one of the only guys.
Only bad for 1 year, right?
It was like 2 or 3.
I thought he was only bad like his rookie campaign.
It was basically 2 years where he was below average. That third year, he was a little below league average offensively. He was considered to be an above average player because of his defense.
Oh yeah,
but was
Walker
a below.
I forgot about the Perdomo one.
Player.
Yep.
This was last year was the first year that he was well above league average offensively.
And it's why color me not impressed. I forget who we were comping Perdomo to.
Victor Scott, right?
No, wasn't it Wetherholt? Because I brought him up as Wetherholt over the last, or Perdomo over the last like 2 years.
I don't
or something.
remember. It was when you were out where T-Bone brought it up in terms of a comp, in terms of like, what if he did this?
I know previously we had talked about like Victor Scott. Could he become offensively kind of what we've seen from Perdomo?
I think it was Wetherholt.
It takes a while.
To where Kylie said, like, what if he does, or what if he has a career like Perdomo? And I'm like, ooh. Like,
that would be disappointing.
Yeah, and I think they're selling it off of what he just did, but it's like, color me not impressed. That was one season. Let's see it for 3 to 4 before I can look at it as be like, okay.
If you're telling me, though, what T-Bone just said, where year 1 is basically what Perdomo was in 2024, where he's roughly league average, doesn't have a whole lot of pop, but otherwise is like a good player overall, and then year 2 breaks out, I would sign up for that.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
The first 2, if that's what the first 2 years of JJ Wetherholt's career look like,
that's a win.
I think that's pretty good for the Cardinals. I mean, last year Perdomo was a legit, top 10 MVP candidate, and what was deserving of that praise based upon everything that he brought to the table was awesome offensively and a good shortstop. And if you have those 2 things, like that he walked more than he struck out last season. He was an unbelievable offensive player for Arizona. So if you're telling me that's JJ Wetherholt in year 2,
damn, that is impressive.
Yeah, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. It is only one season, so you don't know what comes after that. But if you have the kind of eye and the kind of bat that you can walk more than you can strike out at this league, at this level, I'll go ahead and buy into that. I think that's probably going to translate pretty well for years to come. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll talk to Steve Ott, head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds. The Junk Drawer is next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Let's dive into the junk drawer before Steve Ott joins us coming up in about 5 minutes. Head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds, of course. T-Bone, what do you have for us today?
All right, I'm curious how much it would cost for BK to become a ranch ambassador to Hidden Valley, to travel Europe and test ranch food on local foods across Europe. The brand will send 2 duos across multiple European countries with all expenses paid for to create content for the company.
I'd do it. Do it in a heartbeat.
Really? You don't like white gelatinous substances?
That's okay. I could sell
I'll go with him and I'll eat it, and he could just be there.
He's just pouring the
He'll pour it, I'll eat it. I love me some ranch.
They could, you know, the Duke's Mayo Bowl where they pour the mayo on the head coach that wins after the game? They could do that
disgusting.
with me. Every day at the end of any event that I do, if they're having me just tour Europe, for how long?
It doesn't say how long.
Yeah, you just want me to go around Europe and sell this product, and you're paying for me to do everything?
Eat like a croissant with ranch
You're going
on
to
it.
eat pasta in Italy with ranch on it?
Fine.
I don't think you would.
I absolutely
That one would be rough.
You're telling me I get a free vacation to Europe.
You got to work.
You know how much I love to travel. This is not work.
Yeah, but here's
This is work.
That's like saying that when I go to a baseball game, it's work. It's
Here's
great.
the stipulation, though. Here's the stipulation. If you don't eat all of your food with ranch on it the entire trip, you have to pay them back for not eating
I wouldn't do that, but that wouldn't be necessary. I could do whatever is necessary for like the sellable opportunities.
All your food has to have ranch on it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But that's not what they're asking for. They want somebody to go over there and, get some good
Eat their food with ranch on it.
advertising.
Eat their food with ranch on it. It's not good advertising if you don't eat their food with
but it's
ranch
not
on
like
it.
I don't have to eat my waffle in the morning when I'm going to Belgium with ranch
If
on
you're
it.
going to have a Belgian
And then
waffle,
for
you got to put
lunch,
ranch on
I
it.
a
have,
Belgian waffle, you gotta have
a
it.
croissant, and I have to put.
I think you're underselling how much ranch you need here.
I think you need to
I
use
disagree.
ranch.
I think you guys are vastly overselling
I've
it.
determined you don't qualify for the ranch ambassador
Yep, you're
role.
out.
No, that is correct. However, if they came to me specifically and said, "BK, are you interested?"
He'd have too many
you just have to do one thing a day.
You know what? You're pissing us off. We don't care anymore. You can't go.
I feel like I'm not. If you just had to do one thing a day where you're eating ranch, I'd be more than happy to do that. That sounds fantastic. But I'm not somebody that loves ranch, so they'd never come to me.
I do it. I love ranch, and I'll put it on anything.
I like ranch. I want to put it on anything.
I'll put
Coming
it on
up in
anything.
15 minutes, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. But next, Steve Ott, head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds, stops by here on BK and Ferrario.
Alongside Brandon Kiley, Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrarios. We're back on BK and Ferrario here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. And BK, I don't know if our listeners know this, but throughout the hockey season, after every single Blues game, win or loss, Steve Ott would walk over to the headset, put it on, and talk to Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale. Once the simulcast took place this season, I was lucky enough to continue that, so I had the chance to talk to Steve Ott. And I needed my fix. And so I figured with Lindstein and Stenberg coming up, it was a perfect chance to catch up with the former Blues associate coach, now head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds. Steve Ott is joining us now. Steve, it's great to catch up with you, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we have to start just big picture because Lindstein and Stenberg are coming up to the big team with the St. Louis Blues. Stenberg, of course, was here right before the Olympic break, Lindstein's NHL debut. So, Steve, just give us an idea of what these two guys have done in the minor league since you've been behind the bench.
Well, I've been back there now about 18 games, and with Otto, first of all, I get to coach him obviously in St. Louis, and now in the minors. And Otto has a extremely high-end hockey IQ. There's areas of his game that are extremely high-end with the side of the penalty killing, and without the puck, his play without the puck. For a young player to have that type of structure this early is something that you normally don't see. And then offensively, down here, he's been making plays. He's involved in a lot of scoring opportunities and continues to show his skill side off of it. So, for Otto, I expect him to be up and running as soon as he gets in that lineup here tonight.
On Theo Lindstein's side of things, when you have a young defenseman that makes his debut at this level, we've seen it before, Steve. It can take some time before they're really able to hit their stride. What about his game told you, hey, this is a kid that's ready for the NHL level right now?
Well, you know what he is. He's a young defenseman, and part of the development side of it is getting these opportunities to grow his game even further. What I really like, to be honest with you, is getting here. I believe he was heavy minus player, and in the last 18 games, he's got himself on the even plus side since I've been here. So the details of his game have grown very, very fast. And when I say that, it's, good sticks. He's getting back for breakouts. He's been, being able to use some of his gifts that make him a first-round pick, and that's his skating ability. He's an extremely high-end skating ability that kind of escapes, forechecking pressure, and then he gets up on the rush a lot. He scored probably four rush goals for us where he jumped up, helped contribute offensively with, strong play. He had a strong first pass. There's areas of his game that are continuing to grow, and that's box outs and wall battles. For a young player and young defenseman, this is a great step and a great opportunity for him to see what the next level is like.
Steve, you've been doing this long enough now to see young defensemen who are in the American Hockey League get a chance at the NHL level. Without question, it's not an easy transition, but when you go to that NHL level, I've heard and talked with guys in the past that sometimes it feels a lot calmer at the NHL level, which can benefit a guy like Theo Lindstein, could it?
Well, for sure. They're so well coached up there, especially I know, Monty's system and the way that he's going to fit right in there. I hope he obviously does well. I think he has, high-end NHL ability, which is, especially with his skating. It's such a skating game in the next level, and there's going to be growth to his game, no doubt about it. But at the same time, it's such a great opportunity for him just to kind of go see what it's like, continue to work on his craft, and get better every day.
Well, and it looks like he's going to skate with Colton Parayko tonight. I'd say that's a pretty good safety net to have with you in your first NHL game, right?
It sure is. If that's with the big beast beside him, I know he'll be in good hands and be well taken care of for sure.
Hey, Otter, another guy that I know hasn't been down in the American Hockey League with you, but was at the NHL level with you. Just in terms of that development for Dalibor Dvorsky, I know he struggled early on at the AHL level, but since you can continue to see that growth at the NHL level, is that what you expect from a young guy playing the center position early on in his career?
Oh, definitely. It's not easy, especially on the road when you don't have the matchups as a coach, and he's got to survive some shifts as he learns and builds the speed of the game. And Devo's done an excellent job. He's been in the power play situations. He's been in tough minutes. He's learning, how to build a Rolodex in the face-off circle, and you continue to see his growth as well. So, all young players have up and downs until they continue to find their consistency and where they fit in, and to see that type of growth out of our young guys is pretty special.
I did want to ask you a little bit about your goalie situation, Steve. It's something that doesn't get talked about a lot because the Blues have a pretty good situation up here at the NHL level. But tell us a little bit about how that tandem has evolved over the course of this season, and especially since you've been down there with them.
Well, right now we've been running 3 goalies with Zarenko, Romanov, and Will Cranley. And, in our system, Cranley was in the Florida system in the East Coast League. We've called him up and gave him games to see what he can continue to do. And to be honest, all 3 goalies have been playing well. So, lucky enough to have 3 running right now. They're being real competitive in practice, which they're only going to push each other to get better, as well as they all want the net. So it's a good problem to have as a coach when they're pushing each other. The balances of it is to keep them all sharp and get the reps. And our goalie coach down here, Dan Stewart, obviously with the overseeing of Dave Alexander, I think they've done an excellent job for our organization. And that's what we're doing, is building a process with our goaltending as well.
When you saw a goalie fight while you're behind the bench, Steve, so you must have instilled some of that Steve Ott fire for a lot of these guys for Cranley to drop the mitts.
Yeah, I guess he was pretty excited, whatnot. But what the big thing down here is we're just trying to be a team, and that's part of the team. And those scenarios happen when one is messed, they're all messed with, and even the goalie got into one there.
I love it. So big picture on that front, Steve. I mean, we heard Lindstein talk earlier today just about how he feels like there's just a different vibe around the Thunderbirds. I know Stenberg mentioned it as well. You're 6-3-1 in your last 10 games. You mentioned you've been there for 18 games, and you've pulled the Thunderbirds back into this playoff race. How comfortable do you feel in this spot now with a few games under your belt, and are you seeing the returns from the players as well?
Well, that's, for a coach, since coming here, we just talked process, and we've been process driven down here to kind of build not only our individual guys, but also build the team back to where it needs to be and get stable. And to be honest with you, I've seen tremendous improvements in our structure. Not only defensively, but offensively. We dropped our last 2 games, but it wasn't for a lack of effort, putting up, 35-plus shots, and couldn't find the goals that we needed to find. So, but within the game, it's one of those where the coach can be happy with the loss, even though we hate losing. And those are the areas we got to take that next step to continue to push for points and be a playoff team. We want to make sure we're playing meaningful games right towards the end and get into the playoffs and see what type of damage we can do. But the structure side of it, to compete, the work ethic, and the process of the team, I've been extremely happy with.
Steve, I did want to ask you before we get you out of here. Tonight, Braden Shin is going to make his return back here to St. Louis. He was traded last week to the New York Islanders. You got to see him for an extended period of time here in St. Louis. You guys were able to hoist that cup together as coach and player. What do you think you will remember most about Braden Shin and his tenure here in St. Louis?
Well, first of all, his leadership on and off the ice. Schenner is a very, very special person and teammate. He's always worried about, things that, on the ice, if he's taking care of a teammate, fighting wise, he's always there to stick up for the team. Off the ice, if the guys, having trouble at home or, somebody's new, he's always the guy that wants to bring them for dinner. If it's young guys, Jake Neighbors, or the growth of those guys, he was always there for all the special scenarios, and just a very special person and player. Talking about his game, though, he just always wanted to lead by example, and that's what Schenner's always done. He's physical. He's scored big goals. He's just been the ultimate teammate, and obviously it's a loss to a lot of those guys in the dressing room, and we should be so thankful for what he's given us the last 9 years as a Blues organization, because we put 100% into it every single game.
Couldn't agree more with you there, Steve. And just from the player perspective, you've been a part of leadership groups in the past in locker rooms. What's that when you lose a guy like Schenn and Falk, who are those obvious leaders, those vocal guys? Does that kind of push some of those younger guys into an opportunity and an opening to begin to be that vocal leader in the room.
I think it does for sure, and it has to. And those two guys have led that on, and it's no different from before with the Steeners and the Jackmans and guys that move on or retire. Somebody else has to continue to fill that void, and luckily there's a lot of young players that are taking that next step, from Robert Thomas into the next wave of the Holloways and the Jake Neighbors and the Brobergs. Like, these guys are the next wave that's coming up to help fill those type of voids. And when you do so and you have good players and good people in those positions, it'll grow.
Steve, last question that I've got for you. This is obviously not the season that the St. Louis Blues were hoping to have this year, and certainly that is marked by the fact that they had to trade Braden Shin and Justin Falk at the deadline, two guys that had some really good seasons here in St. Louis. From your perspective, and I understand you're not up here any longer, what do you think it's going to take for this team to get back to where you once were with them when they were hoisting that cup 5-6 years ago?
Well, it's part of the process of the retooling, on the fly is the growth of our younger players in that next quarter. I mean, I think I saw 8 or 9 under the age of 25, and even in that next wave, 26, 27-year-old players. As they continue to grow, there's some great pieces there that I know that I got to work along-wise that they just might need a little bit of time. And that next step is getting close, and I think it'll come faster as it goes. And the big thing is, if you watch even the last 4 games and how the teams handled the adversity of the trade deadline and still managed to win some very, very hard games, you see who's stepping up in those, and that's what you can expect going forward.
Steve, we really appreciate you taking some time out to do this. I know a busy schedule with the AHL season still continuing. I know we miss you here in St. Louis, but man, we're so pumped to see the success you're having early on with the Thunderbirds. So good luck down the stretch, and hopefully we're talking around the AHL playoff time.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate it as always. Thanks for having me on.
There you go. Steve Ott, former Blues associate coach, now head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds, who sit only 2 points out of that playoff spot in their division.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I told you guys this when he agreed to go to the Thunderbirds, that if he finds a way to put this team in a playoff spot and they're competitive down the stretch, it would not surprise me one bit if an NHL team calls him up this season and says, cool, we saw you have head coaching experience. We know you're going to be a great coach. Let's get you to the NHL.
It is interesting because and let's be real, there was a lot of speculation about, hey, look at the power play. Yeah. Look at some of the jobs that he's held here at the NHL level with the Blues. Mm-hmm. And there was questions of, hey, is this a demotion? What's going on here? Why are you going from an NHL bench to an AHL job? And maybe the reality is he's almost better served for that role. Yeah. Maybe he's just a guy that is like the classic, the CEO type that we're seeing in the NFL a lot, where teams want somebody that can just oversee everything. Same thing is true at the college level right now. Maybe that's something that really suits him. And he's very good at getting these guys motivated. And as we've talked about in the past, man, that's a big part of the job for the head coach of an NHL or AHL team, is just having the guys ready to go and enthusiastic about playing every night. I know that sounds stupid because for all of us on the outside looking in, it's like, how could you not be motivated to play on any given night? You're playing professional hockey as a job. Like, that seems like the job, or the ideal job for everybody, but it's not always the case.
No, it's the same way that sometimes we come to work and we're not 100% invested.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay, yeah, sorry. BK's always on. I'm not always on. Like, they happen sometimes, and you do need somebody that can pull you up. Like, when I'm not into it, I've got you guys that pull me up, and players need coaches to do that. And speaking of the special teams, because I know somebody's out there probably thinking, it's like, well, yeah, he was terrible. He has got the Springfield Thunderbirds going from, they were 19th in the league power play. They're sitting currently at 9th best power play in that American Hockey League, and they have the 4th best penalty kill in the National Hockey League, or American Hockey League. So
now he's got his work cut out for him. We took 2 of his guys.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
Then
and
it's
maybe
funny.
His best player.
Yeah. And they just the Thunderbirds just made a trade a little bit ago. They traded Pekka for a defenseman. So it's one of those AHL trades. He's not a part of the Blues, but bringing a defenseman. But I can't wait to see where this goes for Steve Ott. I mean, he's just always just such a good guy to talk to. And it wouldn't surprise me if he pulls his team into the playoffs that he's an NHL coach next year.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you missed any of our conversation with Steve Ott, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. Don't forget to download and subscribe to that podcast feed wherever it is that you get your podcast. Just search BK and Ferrario. You'll be able to find it there. And that is where you can also get the Last Minute Blues podcast in the Redbird Report, all over there on your podcast feed for BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, time for Bet It or Forget It here on 101 ESPN. All right, a little bit of an audible.
Omaha!
There's been some news in the NFL that we've got to get to.
This has to be big. Like Trey Hendrickson probably signed if we're pivoting.
No, I mean,
he
Pat
said-
Mahomes has been traded, probably.
No. Apparently, Trey Hendrickson is unwilling to take $1 less than what he's worth. The classic Trey Hendrickson conversation. This guy, every
This guy,
offseason.
I don't want this guy on my team.
Dude, every
take him.
offseason, it's like,
You can't afford him.
I got to get the utmost dollar. Like, dude, you signed the contract.
Also, the
on
Bengals
you.
were bad last year defensively, and you were on that team.
Yeah, he didn't play half the season anyways. But anyways.
Oh, good. Let's give him the top dollar then.
Yeah. Big news in the NFL is the Raiders are sending two-time Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith.
If you ever wanted to know that the Pro Bowl is a joke, you just described why.
Yeah, can we quit using it as an adjective for these guys?
Back to the Jets, where his career began. That is where it will probably come to an end.
Cool, he'll be a Pro Bowler again.
If you're trying to tank, boy, do I have a quarterback for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's successful right now. The guy that is just getting, or the team that he's traded away from was like, cool, thank you for your service, Geno. We'll talk to you next time.
I think this is, in all seriousness, I think this is a smart move by the Jets.
Because you're trying to tank.
Yeah. It's what I would have done if I was the Miami Dolphins. I would have rather had Geno Smith. I would have rather done the Kyler Murray experience. I would have rather just kept Tua Tagovailoa for another year and not taken on $100 million. Yes, I said that correct. $100 million over the next 2 years in dead cap because you were in year one of his contract extension that you got through and paid $123 million for that one season of him being on your roster. I think they screwed up, but I like this for the Jets.
I think who really screwed up were the Arizona Cardinals. I would have traded for that because if I'm going to try and tank, let's go this route.
Yeah, I don't know. Gardner's Minshew's pretty good at throwing picks.
And apparently they're keeping, what's his face?
Brissett. Yeah, I don't really fully understand what they're doing. I guess a classic veteran quarterback
But
battle.
we're signing Tyler Algier. I don't think they know how to tank.
Man, that's fair. Yeah, I forgot about the
We're
Algier
throwing
signing.
money at guys.
Another NFL
tank.
wide receiver just got paid. It's a 4-year, $70 million deal for Romeo Doubs, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. He is heading to New England to be likely their number one wide receiver. What do you think his career high is? He's played 4 seasons in the NFL. Career high in receiving yards for Romeo Doubs.
It's not 1,000. It's
No,
gotta be
I was
low.
700.
I was thinking like 650.
725. Pretty good, Alex. This
well, it's
past
'cause his
season, he had
quarterback can't throw it to him.
725 receiving yards. He did have 8 touchdowns a couple of seasons ago. I would rather pay this price for Romeo Doubs than the price that the Colts paid for Alec Pierce.
Well,
I think
agree
Pierce is
with
a little
that.
better player, but I'd rather have it 17.5 than 30. Romeo Doubs. What do you guys think of the landing spot? New England Patriots for Doubs.
I think it's a fine move for the Patriots. They had to go get a wide receiver. It sucks to go get maybe overpay. I don't know. However you view it, Doubs just needs to stay healthy before I can sit here and act like he's a difference maker. The bigger problem is your Packers. They got nobody to throw the ball to.
I actually think they've got okay.
Well,
receivers
I know
if
you
they
do.
can stay healthy.
Well, you thought that when they had Dobbs.
Correct. I think they just don't stay healthy. Like last year, they looked like a completely different team when their tight end was healthy. When Tucker Kraft is out there, that guy's really good. I think Jaden Reed's a good player. I think Christian Watson's a good player. I think Matthew Golden has a chance to be a good player. Dontavian Wicks is a really nice number 4 wide receiver. None of those guys have stayed healthy, though. So it's going to come down to their ability to stay healthy. If they can, I think they're fine. Reed's a really good slot. And then you've got Matthew Golden and Christian Watson on the outside. It's a pretty good 3-receiver set. They just got to stay healthy.
Be about an 8-win team with that receiver set.
I saw like the Patriots. Like I hope there's another move coming because I'm just so meh on this signing. I think he's like slightly better than Stephon Diggs.
You
and
got
this
to the
time
Super Bowl
around,
with Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is this time around, you're not going to get the easy schedule. This time around, you're going to have to play everybody that was in first place, and you're probably going to not end up with as easy a schedule as you had last year. I'm hoping this is like their Bozak signing, right? Where you look at it and you go, kind of weird, right? Like you pay this guy to be your one. I'm not really sure he's a one, and then you're like, man, this can't really be all they're doing. And then boom, they come out of nowhere and they get their O'Reilly and like AJ Brown, for example.
Trying to see what they have cap space wise.
Or Brian Thomas, another one who's available apparently from the
Still got
Jags.
plenty of money to spend. They've got about $30 million, and that's prior to this signing. This will probably take that down to like 2025. Yeah, I mean, if they could make the deal for AJ Brown,
Or Brian
that
Thomas,
would change
maybe.
things.
AJ
If
Brown
Thomas
makes
is
sense too
available.
with Vrabel.
Yeah, like I hope this isn't their only splash.
I agree.
If he is the second piece to what they're building in the wide receiver room, I can look at this and go, okay, I get what you're doing now. I actually kind of like this. But right now, seeing this as just the first move, I'm going, this feels kind of like we're just running it back with just different names.
They do have basically their entire offense coming back next year in a good way, other than Stephon Diggs. So this is basically, let's say this is a 1-for-1 replacement with Diggs at this point in his career. It's not what Diggs used to be, but what he was last year. Maybe you get pretty similar numbers out of him. They signed Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a really good offensive lineman who, theme of the segment, when healthy, is quite good and can play basically anywhere on your offensive line. So that's a huge upgrade for them. They desperately needed it. We all saw that in the playoffs. He can play tackle or guard, which helps you with Will Campbell. You can decide in training camp what you want to do there. If you had one more wide receiver, that's pretty good offense.
Yeah, agreed.
If you don't, it looks pretty similar to what it was this year, but with like a slight upgrade on the offensive line.
And with a tougher schedule coming down the line, I would feel better about them if there is that one more piece that's coming.
They have the 31st overall selection. Would you offer that for Brian Thomas Jr.?
I would. No, but I'd offer it for A.J. Brown.
I think I would rather offer it up for Brian Thomas. I know that sounds weird. I think A.J. Brown's a better player, but with the cap hit involved, you got 2 more years of the rookie contract and the 5th-year option.
And he's like,
for Brian Thomas Jr. It's like 25.
Almost 10 years younger than Brown at this point.
Yeah, I think I would rather do the Brian Thomas Jr. one than going out there and trading the same asset for A.J. Brown at this point, given the fact that he's going to cost you $30 million and Brian Thomas Jr. is like $3 million. Did you guys see anything else that really stood out to you today in terms of NFL signings? I had one other thing that I wanted to get to from yesterday.
I didn't see anything else.
It's been very quiet in the NFL.
Okay.
Today.
Oh, wait, no. Super Bowl champ Pacheco going to the Lions. I forgot about that one.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a David Montgomery replacement. People are going to be pissed.
For you Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy owners this coming year.
Gibbs is not getting those red zone passes, but I think it's a smart move by Tampa Bay to go and get the cheaper option over David Montgomery.
Yeah, I like it. And you're just giving more of the workload to Jahmyr Gibbs.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. Pacheco's going to be his backup. He'll get a couple of the grinding downs, like a 3rd and 1. Take Jahmyr Gibbs out of there. Let's put Isaiah Pacheco in, and he can just hammer his face into the back of the offensive line. The guy that Kenneth Walker is replacing in Kansas City is Isaiah Pacheco. The Seattle Seahawks, Alex, made an interesting decision yesterday. So they signed Rashid Shaheed after our show was over to a 3-year deal worth $51 million. Oof. Kenneth Walker signed a 3-year deal worth $43 million with the Kansas City Chiefs. So they effectively, the Seahawks, chose Rashid Shaheed over Kenneth Walker. Do you think they're going to live to regret that decision?
I actually don't. I can understand the reaction to it now because Kenneth Walker was the best player on that team to win that Super Bowl, and Shaheed's kind of a secondary piece. Overpay for Shaheed, I'm not denying it, but to me, they just look at it and like, well, we like Charbonnet, and we don't know if Kenneth Walker is going to be this same Kenneth Walker moving forward. And we do need a wide receiver to keep things competitive to where it's not just JSN as the lone target out there. So I don't think so. I think they'll still be competitive with this, and I think Charbonnet fills that spot for for Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I would rather have had Walker.
Same.
I truly think Walker was the identity of the offense. I said this yesterday. For me, I looked at them. I understand JSN and Darnold had really good years, but all of that was set up because Walker ran the ball so well. So you'd have to start to cave in, and then the linebackers start to crash in. Boom, they hit you with the play action. They fired over the middle to JSN, and they pick up 20 yards. And that's what everybody just connected to their offense. Walker was the driving force for that. You can go out and find a Shaheed at the trade deadline or even draft someone to take on the role of what Shaheed was. He could be your number 2 or 3 receiver and be a punt return specialist like he was for him this year. I would have rather had the running back in Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Jalen Naylor does some of what Shaheed did. He got like $10 million a year, I think, in the open market yesterday. Like, hell, just go back to the Kansas City Chiefs. They basically got, for the same price, Kenneth Walker plus Tyquan Thornton for the price that the Seahawks paid for just Rashid Shaheed. It was a 2-year, $11 million deal for Tyquan Thornton. I would rather have the Chiefs side of that. And I promise you, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Chiefs fan. I just think that I don't think this is the right way to value those two players respectively. I understand wide receiver is a more valuable position, but the things that Rashid Shaheed does, while valuable, are easier to replace than a game-breaking threat at the running back position. And we've seen how valuable that can be in the NFL in the last couple of seasons. So I don't like the way that they operated here. I think they did a really good job over the last few years in constructing this roster. I think we're going to look back at this and say that it was a mistake.
And the other thing, too, is I would agree if Charbonnet were like coming into the season healthy, right? He suffered, a torn ACL right towards the end of the year? With the running back, that's very concerning. He may get back to being the same guy he was, or he's a shell of himself because he just had a major knee operation because he blew out his ACL. And if you don't have him, I don't know who the running back is. They must love either a free agent that's on the market. I think I saw they were connected to somebody today. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Is Rachaad White signed anywhere?
That's who it was. White was the one that they were connected to.
Yikes.
So, like, maybe that's the plan, or maybe they love someone in the draft that's later on, like in the 3rd or 4th round. Like, I don't know. Right now, it's not easy for me to see where they're going.
Last thing here before we get back to some other conversation on the Cardinals. when it comes to their closer situation. Big deals yesterday given out to defensive ends, guys. Huge deals. Jalen Phillips, 4 years, $120 million. This is a guy that's never had double-digit sacks in a season. Odafe Owe, who was traded last year at the deadline. 4 years, $100 million? 25 a year for that guy? Boye Mafe, who I would say probably 60% of our audience doesn't know who that is. He played for the Seahawks last year. He was a rotational edge rusher for them. 3 years, $60 mil. Kwity Paye, who was seen as a disappointment and maybe even by some a failure for the Indianapolis Colts as a former first-round selection. 3 years, $48 million. So every one of those players, $16 to $30 million between the four. Phillips, Owe, Mafe, and Kwity Paye. My biggest takeaway from this, man, if you're drafting in the top 10 this year, get yourself an edge rusher. Yesterday we saw with a linebacker core, I was really surprised by the lack of payment that we had to see from, what's his face, linebacker from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why am I blanking on his name? Yeah, Devin Lloyd. Got like 15 a year. He was one of the best linebackers in the league last year. So you can go to the market and get that guy for 15. Meanwhile, if I want just competent starting defensive end play, which is pretty much what Mafe and Paye are, I got to pay 20 a year for that. And Lloyd is like top 10 at his position. Those guys are maybe the 30th to 40th best defensive ends. Yeah, if you can find a legitimate starting edge rusher in the first round, that's probably what you should be targeting this year instead of the linebacker, the running back, the safety. I know those guys are all better, but because of what you're having to pay for the replacement value at the defensive end position, that's what I'd be targeting.
And the good news at the DN
Same
position.
thing for wide receiver.
Yeah, and the good news in the DN position is there's a decent amount of those guys that you can take in the first round this year. I don't know how many are star-level defensive ends, but if you can just get a guy that, like you said, is a average starter that can go play the position, the cost or the cost certainty that you can bring into that to where you end up, you don't have to pay $20 million, you get a guy on a rookie deal, huge win for you.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. An update on the poll that I put out there earlier today. More beloved by St. Louis Blues fans, Braden Shin or Vladimir Tarasenko? Ask this on Twitter. You can go vote right now at BK Sports Talk. Alex, what do you think the breakdown is? We're about a little more than 300 votes in so far.
I think it's going to be pretty close. I'd say 55-45 Shin.
You're just about correct. It's 54% for Shin, 47% for or 46% for Vladimir Tarasenko.
And I think that you could do that with every player on that Stanley Cup team, and it would probably all be pretty close to it. Like I said, I just think people appreciated the style that Braden Shen played over Vladimir Tarasenko's goals.
Coming up next, is it okay for the Cardinals to enter the season without any kind of an established closer? We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they host Braden Shen and the New York Islanders. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 6:30 with Chris Garber and Joey Vitale. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
There's a great piece by Derrick Goold in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch earlier today on what the Cardinals plan to do with their closer situation. They've had an established closer in recent years, Alex, when it was Ryan Helsley. This year, they're going into it, and there is nobody that has that kind of cachet. There's no Ryan Helsley on the roster. There's no Jordan Hicks on the roster. There's nobody that you would say, hey, they deserve to be handed this job as you enter spring training. And so they have it. And Ollie Marmol has basically told reporters, hey, we're going to figure this thing out. We're going to play the matchups. If somebody takes it, great. If not, then we'll continue riding this wave, seeing who ends up getting the best opportunities out there. JoJo will be in the mix. Fonson will probably be in the mix. I would assume that they will have O'Brien in that mix as well. You guys good with this? Do you feel like they need to have an established closer by the time that we reach opening day?
No, this is an old school baseball where you have to have a designated closer and available to you. Times they are a-changin'. You have a guy that goes out there that matches the situation well. One, you just go with the matchups in terms of lefty versus righty, righty versus lefty. Does this guy get the swing and miss stuff? Who's best served for this position? Two, this is also what you do in a rebuild. You let guys internally compete for the closer. Hopefully by June, Matt Swanson, every time he takes the ball in the ninth inning, is like lights out, and you say, okay, well, he basically wants this job. Let's give it to him for an extended run. Same with Riley O'Brien. Same with, why am I blanking on the lefty's
Swanson.
name?
Oh, Romero.
JoJo?
Yeah, Romero, thank you. Like, you create the internal competition so that guys fight for it, because guess what happens when everyone wants that spot? They're going to give you their best. So, yeah, this makes total sense that they're not naming one, and I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, I have no problem with this just because there is nobody that's established as, like, this guy should be a closer that you lock in the ninth inning. And by the way, this guy feels like he has to know what he's doing, right? That was the thing with Helsley. He didn't like the kind of uncertainty as when to warm up. Should I go multiple innings or not? He wanted to, as we went into, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, wanted, hey, I know I'm pitching the ninth inning, and I've proven that I am a closer. I've got maybe the best stuff, I did have the best stuff in that bullpen. When you have a guy like that, yeah, you lock in that ninth inning role. But for now, to go into the season and say, let's just see what this looks like for the first 6 weeks and see if anybody establishes themselves as that, I'm totally fine with going into this to where Swanson maybe closes out one game. The following day, it's JoJo. Maybe in game 3 of that series, it's O'Brien if somehow they earn a sweep this season. Like, I'm totally fine with that until somebody can truly prove, hey, you are a closer, and you've definitely by far run away with proving to be our best arm in this situation. Then would I be okay with naming a closer? But for now, yeah, I'm totally fine not having somebody in that role.
I think this is the way that Ollie would prefer to go about it. Remember when he first got the job, he talked about this. Like, hey, sometimes we're going to throw our best guy in the 7th inning because that's what the matchups will dictate.
BK was like, God, another manager's going to be pissed off at me.
No, I said that's exactly what I've been talking about with their previous manager who refused to do that. So I think this is kind of what Ollie would, in his ideal world, like to do. But, you know, you've got veterans that have earned the right. Like Ryan Helsley had earned the 9th inning, and also it helped him stay healthy. He knows if we're up by a run, 9th inning, I'm going out there. And if we're not, I'm probably not going out there. So he knew exactly what his role was. He knew he would get off days, all of these different things. So it worked with Ryan Helsley here. When you have Paul Goldschmidt and prime Nolan Arenado, yeah, they're going to be batting 3-4 in your order because those guys mash. They're unbelievable. And so they have earned that right. They are the best options for that role. And also at that point in their careers, they had earned the opportunity to be hitting where they want to. I would say the same thing is true with the closer situation. If somebody emerges this year and you get a couple of months into the season and it's just very clear, like, hey, Riley O'Brien is the best arm coming out of your bullpen, and they decide they want to use him in that way because he's earned it, totally cool with it. But if not, I'd ride this wave. I'm good with the fact that they're going into this season without somebody established in that role. All right, one other baseball thing that I wanted to get to. Did you guys see this Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh story?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he didn't shake his hand last night.
So I think they're kind of making this into a legit story. Have you seen Randy Arozarena's postgame?
No.
Where he talked
I saw some of the comments.
Spanish?
Yeah, I saw some of the comments.
So the comments do not read well.
Yeah, no.
So if you haven't seen this story, the U.S. and Mexico played on Monday, and Team USA won. When Randy Arozarena was going to the plate, he's up to hit. Cal Raleigh's behind the plate. They're teammates with the Seattle Mariners. Randy A goes over to him, tries to shake his hand. He leans down, clearly says something to him, and Cal Raleigh, it seems like basically says no, man,
we're
not here.
teammates right now, bro.
Yeah.
This is not what we're going to do.
I like it.
Also, how are you going to shake a hand right now? Hey, but step in the batter's box. Can we just move on and shake hands after?
I'm guessing that's pretty much what he said.
Yeah, come on, man.
So afterwards, Randy A said that Cal Raleigh, quote, has to thank God that he has nice parents, well-educated. Then said that Raleigh should, quote, bleep off and go to hell, end quote.
Okay.
Weird comments. I watched it, and if you watch his body language, I think he's smiling. I think it was said in jest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about something like this.
I also what is it? What does that mean? Good thing he's got great parents?
I don't know.
I guess it means he.
Because he didn't shake his hand? I'm kind of in the squatting position right now, readying for a pitch. Can you just move forward? I don't feel like getting out of this right now.
I kind of respect Cal Raleigh more out of this situation.
Yeah, I do too. I think Randy's trying to
you may be teammates, but when you're competing for your country, and the moment you step in between the lines, your brother becomes your enemy in that situation. And you know what? If you don't want to shake his hand, you don't got to shake his hand. I like it.
Or just shake it afterwards, man.
No, I wouldn't even talk to him.
Oh, jeez.
I'll see you in Mariners camp.
I think Randy's trying to make it. I agree with you. The body language was all right. It's in jest, I think. But the comments are if I'm Cal Raleigh, I'd be like, dude, shut up. Can we just? We're playing baseball, man, against each other. We'll be fine.
He should have shook his hand and held it for a couple of seconds and went pitch clock violation. That's a strike.
I'd have spit my hand and then shook it.
I just don't really care. This looks like competitors to me.
That's why I love it.
I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're going to get back to spring training.
I think they hate each other and they're going to trade Randy.
I can't imagine there's anything that comes of it. If they are actually mad at it, if Randy's actually mad about this, genuinely mad and holds some kind of a grudge, that'll be interesting. But I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Imagine if the Mariners get off to a slow start and the offense isn't
that'd
hitting.
be amazing.
You get weird
Randy
comments.
will be gone.
We know the comments. We know how fans will react to seeing this situation.
Brendan Donovan's got to be like, oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, God, can you?
Oh, God.
Brendan's going to take him out and be like, guys, come on. This is ridiculous.
Yes, this is stupid. Can we just please move forward? I just moved away from a bad team. I don't want to do it again.
Coming up next, the Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We're just having a heated debate off the air about Paradise. If you haven't seen the most recent episode, highly recommend doing so. I've also been catching up on Industry. Alex, good show. Highly recommend it.
I don't have time for shows. I'm just trying to stay on top of Paradise.
It's on season 4 right now.
No, Night Agent is the next one, and then From is coming out in April, and that's another series. It's a good one.
Night Agent's new season was pretty good.
That's I can't even get through freaking Paradise right now. I sleep halfway through an episode, so it takes me 2 days to watch one episode.
Getting into your 50s is hard, isn't it?
My God,
If you
tell me about
watched
it.
Succession, did you either?
I saw Succession.
I didn't see Succession.
Yeah.
It's Industry's probably the closest similarity to that I've seen.
I've heard about it. I just haven't seen
good.
it.
I think it's a good show. Anyway, so Blues back in action this evening. They will be heard right here on 101 ESPN. If you want local coverage on this game, guess what? There's only one place you can get it. It's right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN, starting at 5:30. Puck drop tonight a little bit early, 6:30 on 101 ESPN. Alex, It is Braden Shen's return. It is also a debut for Theo Lindstein tonight. Yep. Otto Stenberg is back. Some new line combinations. You excited for this one?
I am. I'm excited to see what Lindstein looks like. I'm excited to see Parayko back in the lineup. I'm curious to see the reaction to Colton Parayko when he first steps on the ice because of all the stuff that went down on Wednesday. But more than anything, man, it's just going to be Shen. I can't wait for that ovation. I can't wait to see the reaction from the fans when they get to celebrate Braden Shen. And I told you guys, if I were a betting man, I would look into a Braden Shen fight tonight because I think the cherry on top and passing of the guard would be a Shen fight with Jake Neighbors right off the opening faceoff.
That would be amazing. That would be the
passing of the guard. That's it right there.
If you guys missed any of the show, check it out on the podcast page after the show today. Derrick Goold was on with us. We talked to Jeremy Rutherford as well. And Steve Ott, the head coach for the Springfield Thunderbirds, gave us some insight into what we can expect from both Theo Lindstein and Otto Stenberg as they make their return and debut for the St. Louis Blues. Also talked about Joshua Baez. T-Bone got all excited about him yesterday, only for Chaim Bloom to say, chill out, dude. He's going down to AAA. And we reacted to the Robert Thomas interview he was on exclusively earlier today with TMA. So if you missed any of that, check it all out on the podcast page after the show. Be sure to download that and subscribe to the BK and Ferrario feed, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We will talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.